Alright, I've got a 2013 Ford Escape here. I'm going to be replacing the transmission in this. This has the 6F35 6-speed transmission. Now it's still drivable at this point, but the low gears are slipping and it's like kicking and bucking real hard sometimes when it does go into first. So there's a lot of problems with these transmissions. As you're probably aware, through I think many years, but it seems like these 2013s and 14s are some of the worst. This is all-wheel drive, so I priced a lot of these transmissions and they're really pricey. You know, you're looking at right at $2,000 for a transmission, even if you find one used. So it doesn't make any sense to get a used one in this case, because it's going to have the same exact problems as the one that failed. So, and it's not uncommon. People's had these things fixed and they mess up again. So I ordered mine from a company. I did some research and they had really good reviews, so we'll see. It was called Street Smart, I think, and I got a reman from them, and they're supposed to go through and like redo everything and fix a lot of the defects in these transmissions. So it's got a 3-year unlimited mile warranty, so you can't really beat that. If you're talking $2,000 for a used, $2,000 for a reman, you know you're obviously going to go with a reman. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to give you a quick tour of the vehicle. It's a pretty nice vehicle. Okay, so we'll take a look around it real quick. As you can see, it's really nice. This is it's an all-wheel drive titanium, they call it, model, and it's got the black leather, which I really like. So this is definitely one that's worth fixing. A very nice. Got the touch screen and everything, and we can look in the back. So it's got plenty of room. It's a very nice looking vehicle, and it's got a power hatch. You just lift and it'll open itself pretty much. Well, I don't have it locked, but anyways, other than a few little dings, it's like in really good shape. So it's definitely worth getting this repaired. So we're going to go ahead and get started now. Okay, so with the hood up, the first thing I'm going to remove is just this little decorative cover. It just pops down on these little grommets, and they really kind of bite on there, so you do have to pull on it a little bit. Okay, and we've got this piece here that kind of hides the battery. We're going to get to that, but I think before we dig around back in there, we're going to go ahead and remove this air box and a few items. Now this has this strap. Just give that a pull and it'll disconnect that, and then you also have the lower part that kind of locks on there. So we're going to go ahead. We've got a couple of bands on this that looks like they're in a bad to get to place, but you can see the 8mm. We're gonna work on finding both of those bands and loosening those 8mm up first. Okay, so I just loosened up that band for this part basically, and we just squeeze down here, get that sensor off, and if you give this a little tug, this whole assembly should squeeze itself up and out of here. However, it still is going to be kind of a snug fit. Okay, so this has a couple of spots you squeeze on both sides, disconnect that vacuum, and it kind of will wiggle out a little easier. This band and this one are kind of in a almost impossible place to get to, so kind of wondering if they can't be moved around where they're a little bit easier to get to. So anyways, you can see that clears up a lot of room. I'm a little bit concerned that we've got some oil in here, so have to see what's going on. May have to replace the PCV and go from there. But anyways, we're going to, this is a lot like your Mazda 3 setup, and well, the Ford Focus basically. And you just want to label at this point. There's a lot of clips and stuff that run into this, and what I'm going to do is work on taking this loose and the work on getting back in there. We may try to get back in there and get that clamp off and see if we can't get to that negative, or we'll disconnect the negative here and we'll disconnect this positive. Go ahead and get this out of the way before we start messing with any of these. So I think we'll do that. We'll go ahead and get on the negative right here. I think we can disconnect and just disconnect our positive, which is just an 8mm, because it's really difficult to get to that rear one. We're actually probably going to be removing this, but I don't know for certain, so I'm just going to leave it for now. Okay, so we got the positive off and we took that off of there, that negative. So we're going to work on disconnecting. Like I said, make sure that you label everything, even to where the snaps go. You'll never remember how to put these things back together if you don't. So that's what we're going to work on next, is getting this battery box. Surprisingly, you know, once you remove a few brackets and a few things like this, you really clear up a lot of room. And other than that, I don't see us having any problems getting this out of here, and I don't even know that I'm going to need to remove this up here. Okay, so we pop those out. You just need a little screwdriver. We're going to take this 13, it's going to the starter, and this other wire, it's running back here. Take those few off, and we should be able to work. This is kind of like a puzzle the way it goes, you know, but you lift this up basically, and this piece will come off, and then we can slide the battery out and then work on getting the rest of this box out of here. As you can see, that part there just kind of lifts out of that groove, so nothing to that. Now we come over here, this wire is running down, and I'm sure it's going to get in our way. We're going to go ahead and pull up. Usually these got a safety tab you got to pull back on and lift this up. Figure out where the safety tab's over to the side there, if you can see that little black safety tab. So we're going to carefully get this, we'll get that up and out of there, we'll get it taped off and marked, and this will just, we're going to wind up just pushing it out of the way. I don't see no need in removing it entirely. We'll put that back, and now we've got it to the point here where we can go ahead and get the clamp on that battery. We'll start sliding this out of here. Okay, so we just pulled the battery back here a little bit. Had to get the bracket off, and there's this connector. You just push down right there and take that off. And so now this whole thing will come out. Okay, so you can see that we've got some 10 millimeters in here, one hiding back in there, and a little rubber stop back there for the battery. I think those are the only ones holding it, but we'll find out here in just a minute. You know, this bracket, it sets on as well, but I'm going to take those out and see if it'll come out of there. Okay, we got it freed up, but as you can see, there is a little Torx right here that's fastened into that box that's holding this heater hose. So this is loose, but we got to get that off of there. So we're going to get a little Torx, figure out what size that is, and get that loose. Okay, as it turns out, there is not room to lift this thing up to get it out of here, even though I've got it loose. Those that thing also had a little clip back there that went into the side of that box as a screw, and then like a little push pin. But I got that loose, but this hits against this here and doesn't give me slack to pull it out because of the way it's made. So we're gonna go ahead, I think, and take this up here off. Now, of course, we got the wipers, and we've got the master cylinder reservoir attached to it here, but it is what it is. We're going to have to pop that off there because they didn't allow room to lift this up. So I'm going to just switch over and work on taking those wipers off first. I'll just have some caps. Figure out how to slide those caps off. So you just gotta, it just locks down on there onto that. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and work on doing that. You'll want to make sure, put you a mark. That way you can put these back. I like to put a mark like on this, and then put a mark on the windshield itself. That way it gets put back where it was. Okay, we've got these little clips here that grip. I'm going to have to go around and get each of these. You just kind of lift up because they really bite on. There's that clip. And we've got a whole bunch of them. Said you just have to kind of lift up, and then you should be able to work it back off there. They really do have some grips on there, and so we'll have to keep up with all of these, but there's two of them, and we've got, said they just run all the way across here, so we're just going to finish removing the rest of those. Okay, with all those clips off the front, the back ones just pop out. They have clips popping them down into there. Let's flip it over, I'll show you. These right here, and I'm really absolutely amazed none of them broke. I don't think I've ever seen one that didn't almost every one of them break when you removed it. So this must have been some decent plastic they used. So we got that. Now we've got the, so now we've got an 8mm there. Got an 8mm over here. We've got those out. I'm thinking there's some more clips or something, but we are going to take this and this and see if there's anything else holding it. Okay, I'm actually amazed again with those out, and there's just the 4. It actually just pulls right out of there. So I wish I would have just done this first. I wouldn't. This stuff gets on your hand, it's really itchy. But anyways, we got that out of the way, so we should be able to get our box out of here now. Maybe. The lid hung on it back there. So see how that goes down there. Just doesn't really give you room to be able to get to it. So we got it. Now this is the only thing holding up our transmission, besides we got one little torsion mount. So it looks to me like we're not going to have a lot of trouble getting in here, but we'll see. I don't know. Hopefully we don't have to disturb our coolant and stuff, etc. So anyways, we'll get this set aside and we'll see where we want to go next with it. Okay, really not a lot we can do up here right now. I've got a few of these wires, grounds loose and labeled, and we're going to go ahead and just switch over to getting the vehicle lifted safely. I already got it chalked, the rear wheels, both sides chalked, and we're going to go ahead and lift it up and get our tires off. Going to be using an impact, and we're going to be getting the wheels off and start working on removing the CV axles and probably working from underneath here. Okay, I've just come under the front and we got under the subframe. We lifted it here. I'll show you where I got my jack stands. Okay, so on each side we got blocks and we got a jack stand. So right here at this part of the frame, and then we got some blocks on the pinch weld just as backup. Okay, I've got a 3/4 here. You can also use a 19. We're going to start zipping these off, and these will get stuck if you got these original capped type lugs. Okay, we got a 32 axle socket. Okay, so we're almost got it. Alright, so we're going to get this brake line. Got an 8mm. Okay, so we got the wheel turned to the right. We're going to get back here and get to these two 18s on the back side and take this whole entire brake caliper off here now. Okay, there's that bottom one. Okay, we're just going to wire it up here on the spring. Just wiggle that off of there. Right, we'll go ahead and remove this rotor. Okay, next thing I'm going to remove these 3 tins so we're not damaging the dust shield. Okay, now we're going to have to pop this ball joint down and out of here. Now on this side of the bolt, we've got a 15 millimeter head. We're going to hold this on this side, and we're going to get on the other side and remove the 18 millimeter nut. We're going to go ahead and straighten this back up. Okay, so on this side you can see the nut here, this 18. We're going to hold it on the other side and use our impact and zip that off. Okay, so we're going to get this into place. Now if this is not seized up, you should be able to push it through. And here's that. Okay, so I've got a 3-foot crowbar running through here. You see it's running underneath the CV to the front here. Now we're going to kind of keep that in place, and we're going to take a rubber mallet and hit it right here until we can knock this down. Okay, so you can see the top of that ball joint right there, and you can see the pinch point, and we're just going to start hitting this until we break that loose, and it should start moving downward. Okay, and you can see it moving. Okay, and all we're doing is just hitting it out here. Alright, so there we have it loose. Okay, so at this point we're just going to kind of wiggle it out of here. Alright. Okay, so the next part is we're going to have to remove, or we're going to have to loosen up this band here. You can see there's a 13 millimeter right up at the top of that right there. Well, it's kind of hard to see right there where my finger's pointing. And then there's also one down at the bottom here, you can see. And what we're going to be using is a little flexible head with a 13. We're going to actually climb underneath the vehicle and get to these. It's going to be easier than trying to get it from out here, but all we got to do is loosen it up, and they'll take a pry bar like this, and we'll get a hold of it right here and just kind of pry it out. So that's all we're going to do is loosen it up. Okay, so you can actually see a little bit better from under here. You got this turbo intercooler in your way, but you can get this little flexible head and loosen it up. Always wear safety glasses when you're under here, or you'll be digging stuff out of your eyes for days. Alright, so we're going to loosen up that top one there. It's a little bit harder to see. Okay, it's loose, as you can see. Now, one other thing we're going to do before we go any farther is we're going to loosen this plug on the transmission. We're going to drain out as much fluid as we can get before we go any farther. And I have not, the procedure is the same on the other side, but popping the CVs out is different, and I have not removed that CV either. Alright, so I'm fixing to remove this plug, so get your 11 millimeter. It's the only time you're ever going to use it. But I do find that I never use this 11. There's like a few bolts here and there. Alright, so we're gonna get back here and back our camera up. Alright, so we've almost got it here. Let's see how much. Actually looks nice and clean. I'm surprised. I don't think I've ever seen transmission fluid be clean on any of them I've had to replace. So we know the fluid's not a problem, unless they changed it a little too late. Okay, so we just drained out about 4 quarts. Alright, so with it drained, we'll go ahead and Come in here with our little pry bar, and it shouldn't take a lot of force to start pulling this out. Just make sure that it's not hung up. It's going to be a long stub in there, so you just got to carefully pull this out. I've got a little bit of drip in there, but it's not much. Just what little bit was on the shaft. Okay, we're over here on the driver's side now. We're going to be doing this one a little bit different. We're going to be using this 3-foot crowbar I got. And we're going to come in behind it and get it situated. We're going to pop it out of here with this. You can see how I've got it just kind of run over the top and fed up in there. Okay, so we're going to pop it loose. Just get it on the edge of it. All right, there it goes. You just have to get it just right, and it actually comes out pretty easy. We're going to give it a little more to make sure we got it free. Go ahead and reach up in here and pull it the rest of the way. Right, so there we go. Okay, so here's a view of the drivers and the passenger CV axle. You can see the long stub on the passenger side. You got the clip at the end of this one that holds it in, and then the band is what holds this one into place as you clamp that. So do be careful with these when you're removing them, when you're removing your knuckle, and don't get them in a bind and pop them out of socket, because then you're going to have to replace it. Okay, I think the next thing we're going to do here is actually remove this front bumper. A lot of people start panicking when you talk about removing a bumper, but it's really not a lot holding this bumper on. And it's going to make things much easier for me to show you what's going on as far as getting into this starter, because there's going to be no way to show you what I'm doing with all this in the way up here, and it's pretty difficult to get to. So we're going to start with popping this bumper off, and first thing we'll do is get over here and remove these here. I think these are 7s, and a lot of these little Christmas tree pop rivets have been removed. You got them here, and these inner fender liners have snaps that you'll need to pop out back here. So that's what we're going to be working on here next. Okay, you can get yourself one of these kits. These are, I think I got this for like $15 or $16, and it comes with a whole assortment of tools and all the little pieces that you need, because anytime that you're working on something like this, you're going to break some of these. They're really cheap, and you can see I've used a lot of these already. So but it's a really cheap kit, and it's good to have. Okay, so these fender flaps are easy to remove. We're just going to remove both of them on each side. It's just another step to take it completely out of the way. As far as the driver's side, it needs to be out of the way so you can kind of see what you're doing anyway. But you got several of these 7s that you're going to need to remove, and then we've got some little push pins or Christmas tree snaps that we got to remove, and look forward to at least breaking a few of them. They're almost impossible to remove without breaking a few. There also are some more of these underneath. I'm going to show you once I get all these out. Okay, so we got all those out all the 7s. Okay, as you look underneath here, you see that we got some more running right along through here. So we got 3. We're going to go ahead and remove those, and that's going to release this. Said it's not a lot to removing the bumper. It's just you know, you got a few screws here and there, and it comes off, and then it's out of your way, and you don't have to worry about messing it up, and you don't have to worry about it being in your way, and you can actually start to see what's going on. So we'll get these 3. Okay, right here we actually got one of those push pins that we need to go ahead and get. Okay, as you can see, now it's loose from the bumper. Okay, working our way back, we got more of these. So these can be rather tough to remove, and sometimes they break. Alright, so we've got those, and then we got one over here. Okay, we got one hidden right here up in the front that I missed. And that one's not wanting to turn loose. Okay, so it looks like we've got the front part loose. Okay, working our way back, we got one back here by this brake line, or the ABS cable rather. Okay, now if you can see these, you just want to pop these up. Once you get it popped up enough, should be able to work the rest of it out. Got one more right here. So it's tedious, but not difficult. Okay, then we got these down here. So you really need one of these little screwdrivers. Alright, so we should be getting everything loose. Okay, once you got all those out, you just kind of start working this thing out here. And it should wiggle itself out. Okay, there was a sneaky one right here. So you can't see them for all the dirt. You got to get that one out. Okay, it's kind of tricky the way it goes in there. Actually, they've got it where this is supposed to go over this first, but I wiggled it out of there anyways. But I'm hesitant to mess with these much because you go to breaking them. So I just kind of popped this out a little bit and was able to get it out of there. Okay, so these, you can actually squeeze these in from the back side of this and these pop out, but I'll have to actually pop that up like that before I slip that inner fender shroud back down. And looks like there's some sort of a push up right here on the bumper, so I'm gonna have to figure that out as well. Okay, there's actually a sensor that goes there, so I'm probably just going to leave that alone. It looks like Well, we'll have to disconnect it as we're getting this bumper off, but shouldn't be a big deal. We've got some other connectors here for the lights and stuff that we're going to have to disconnect as well. But you definitely want to label everything as you're getting it loose. And so we're going to do the same thing on both sides. And you can probably take a pick tool and get some of these, because these connectors are being difficult. So you want to take a pick tool and push that down and kind of help it out because it's stuck. Okay, so we disconnected that. The clip wasn't the problem, it's just stuck on there from like dirt and everything. So this piece, have it completely off, but so we'll just set it aside. But anyways, these just unclip out of there on both sides, and the way that the inner fender liner is, you need this off. I said to remove these, you carefully squeeze these with your fingers or pliers and just pop it out, nothing to it. Okay, like I said, you see the wire running around the bumper. We're going to mark everything, label every sensor, and even where these little push tabs, we're going to make note of where those go. And as you can see with this fender liner out, we've got 3 of these 10 millimeters up here to remove, so they're going in that way. We're going to take those out on each side. That's going to free up this bumper, and then we just have I think we have a few on top. There might possibly be a few underneath, but shouldn't be very many. So I'm going to label the sensors, and then we're going to get these here out on each side. Okay, and I say with those little clips for wires, they really go overboard with those, so I'm sure you won't have to put every single one of them back on the bumper, but you can put some of them. But it's just one of those things that when you're removing something the first time, there's going to be a lot of unnecessary stuff clipped to everything. So all I'm doing is removing these 3 that's holding the side of the bumper here. So we're going to work these 10 millimeters out, and then we'll move on. All your fender liner stuff, get you a little baggie for that, and make sure you're not losing it, and just throw it on the side of the door that come off of, so you don't get it mixed up. Okay, even when you get those 3 bolts out, you got some little clips you have to push in alignment pins. Push in on those little clips. Okay, there's 10 millimeter going into this headlight here. You want to get that out. And then we've got these little push pins that you got to get up. They go all along this, and we'll probably go ahead and just remove these and take this piece up. Maybe not just quite yet though, because it looks like we've got to get these for the hood latch. We got a couple of 8s, and then there's a little, you got to be very careful with this. You want to flip that over and disconnect that, or you'll break that little holder there. But we need to get that, I guess. So we'll work on getting all these up, and we'll take this hood pop loose here, or hood release. Okay, we got all those out. We're just working on taking this here loose. Like I said, once we flip it over, we'll push that through from the back side, so we don't want to break it. And then we'll just set it over there out of the way. But Also put all these little push pins in a little baggie, label them where they go. And just, you really want to be organized. That's what's going to help you out more than anything. That way everything goes back together quickly. So I could probably get away without removing this bumper, but it's going to be better for me showing you where everything's located. Alright, so we've got that. Let's flip this over. And you can see it's just got a little, we'll be careful, we'll push that out from the back side. Okay, so we're still working on this bumper. Remember I was showing you the clips. I'm not for sure everything that's holding this, because I hadn't removed this before, but I've took everything out up here. There's a couple of these right down here, taking those out as well. So make sure to put these back where they go and label them. It's really windy out here, cold today, probably going to have a little trouble hearing me. Over here, showing you do have these wires. Like I said, they go overboard, they clip everything into everything, so you have to pop those clips out, disconnect the lights and stuff. We've got another clip up there. So as we're bringing this off, we'll have to finish getting the rest of them. Now, there's also a few underneath here. I can't tell you where they're at because I've got pieces missing. I've got screws missing, but there's a few under here that go into clips, and you'll just have to look under here and find them. Those were not on mine, but these up here, took all these out, and then the three that I was showing you that are coming through up here, we've took those out. So you could either go from underneath, or you could come through up here where the light is and get those. So I'm just I'm popping it off. I'm gonna have to get a hand on it. Like you can see, you got to be careful. These will start breaking, but it's made to snap in there on each side, and that's where I'm starting. I'm popping these sides out, and you just have to work it out the best you can. There's a little clip goes on up there. So now I think we just got a few clips in here in the middle, and I'm going to try to finish popping it off. Alright, so let's see if we can get this to lint. Okay, it feels like I still have something holding. Let me take another look here. Okay, so it is loose. There was something holding there in the middle that I wasn't quite sure. Now I still got a few wires over here, so I'm going to get over here and disconnect those. But I'll see if I can figure out what it was there in the center. Okay, I really didn't see a whole lot of information on this bumper. I mean, it's not like really anything special, but you know, you have to be cautious when removing something you hadn't removed before, so you're not breaking things. But as you can see in the middle, you got these three little plastic protrusions. Those go like up. Okay, just give you a closer look. They like go in here, and I guess they kind of hold that and lock it into place. So that's was the only thing kind of holding, and then you have these two nubs. Now this connector I had to use a pick tool on. It was really stuck. Now these, I was unclipping those. It's not necessary. I didn't realize. I thought I was going to have to remove this whole harness. That was not necessarily, so I'm just going to hook those back. So the only ones you need to disconnect were the ones coming through the sensor for the fender there. The only one that's necessary, so I'll just hook those others back up, and then we'll get, you see I've got it setting on some towel so it's safe. So But just wanted to give you a look at this. Said you got the top where you have the snaps and the bolts, all the bolts along the top, and you got the 3 that are coming through this side, and you see it's got the little, these places where your bolts go into on each side. And then of course the screws that are running along the fender flaps underneath, because they run all the way down here and all the way underneath. And then there's supposed to have been some on the bottom here, but I don't know, those have been long since removed. And then you got these over here. However, I will say that with as many screws on the sides and the top, these snaps, the bottom piece is really just extra support. I mean, short of catching it on something, you know, it's being held on there pretty solid. So, and I would think that the plastic would give first anyway. But I wanted to kind of give you a good look at this, because there really wasn't a whole lot of information on this. But I mean, once you know where the screws and stuff are, it's easy to get this bumper off. And you can see that we've already cleared up some space. Now this piece, I could have popped it off with a bumper. It's got a couple of little snaps that go right there, but I'm probably going to take this piece off as well. That's all that's holding it. So I'm going to work that off. This, as far as this piece goes, we'll take these bolts out, and we'll get this piece out of the way next, and then we'll proceed on. I'm probably going to get these headlights out. Just anything that I feel like is going to limit my visibility here, because it's really not hard. Once you take this stuff apart once, you can, you know, do it blindfolded the next time. It's not that difficult. It's just a matter of getting some things out of the way. On this piece, I don't see a lot holding it. I popped these little snaps loose from that piece. I popped these loose. There was a couple little pops in there, and there's one there and there. So I've got a couple of 10mm. I'm going to take these out, this center next, and I would expect that this piece is going to come right off. Okay, they put a fun little clip on this thing. Basically, you have to get a flat screw. You got to push this down. You take another one from the bottom one at the same time and push up and pop that out of there. This, I turned it right there, and it seems like it's loosened that up, maybe. So getting ready to go over here to this side and do the same thing. So you got to go in here, push the top one down, and at the same time you push that bottom one up, and then you kind of pop it out of there. Okay, as you can see, we got those out, so that's loose. Little flaps loose from there. I think we've got to separate this flap here. I think that's what's holding me, so we're going to top that off, and hopefully we're going to label this so we know how this all goes back together. So we're going to pop those off on both sides, but other than that, I think we've got everything else there. Okay, so those actually have to be straight up to get those to pull out of there, because this has a groove. You see right there, it lines up with the bumper support. So you got to turn those a certain way. Now also pop the clips up on the back of that piece so I can pull it out of the front here. So a lot of little pieces. we're going to take the time to label these. I'll never get this back in order, but we're getting there. My hopes, because this is so crowded, is to get this front support piece off of here, and I know that's going to take removing a few things, but is to get some slack so I can actually do something. I don't feel like fighting to get to that starter down there. So the next thing, we're going to remove these headlights. So you'll have a couple bolts here. You can use a flat for these little weird shaped ones. And let's see there, one more right there, it slides in, and then of course push down and disconnect this. So let's get that off of there. Okay, I'm kind of glad I'm taking this off now. You can see all these leaves that are just trapped down in here and restricting this. Now I know they put a lot of this together with these plastic pieces and everything to force the air in the center, but I kind of wonder if they don't just help keep everything, all the debris trapped. So not a big fan of that stuff, but we'll try to clean this out anyway before we put it back. So anyways, I said I'm going to take these out. I'm going to use a flat because I don't have that fancy bit there. Okay, on this little clip, I think you're supposed to push it back, but I tried that on the other one and it just broke it. So we're going to go underneath because it just has a little hook, and if I can get this under the front of it, and you can see it when you lift up on it when you get it there. I just got this little hooked in. Anyways, I'm gonna get that under that piece. I can just barely reach it there, but that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pull up on that and just pull it back. Hopefully I won't break this one. Okay, that worked on that one because I don't know what the trick is on that. But anyways, if you're worried about breaking the clip, rest assured that this is not going to go anywhere once you put it on. I mean, unless somebody pulls on it, it ain't moving. Right, we got this passenger ready. Now we do have one more connector right back here. Just push down on that side light. Might have to get a screwdriver. Let me get over here where I can show you this thing. Okay, as you can see, you just have to push down on that. But all of these have been really stubborn, and if the clip doesn't want to release, you gotta get a pick tool on it. Let me get a screwdriver for this. Okay, so let's push down right here. There, we got that one, so we can go ahead and completely remove that. To help yourself out, put all these little bolts and screws back everywhere that you can, so you're not having to figure out where they went later. Okay, next piece we're going to remove is this plastic brace, and we're going to get us marker over here and put a few marks just so we can watch the alignment when we go back together. Same thing for our fender. I'm going to put some marks on here just so everything's going to go back exactly the way that it was. We shouldn't have a lot. So we got the bolt going through here, got a bolt going through here, here, and here. So that's what we're going to do. With that, it should lift up and off of the top of this radiator here. Now we do have a few things up here to get at. This here, basically you can pop it out of its spot here. Just remember where it goes back. And then this we will simply disconnect. We'll have to fold that back and disconnect that. See if I can get it with one hand. There we go. Just like that. So then this thing should slide out of here. But we'll have to be delicate because with most little cheap plastic things, they like to break. So I'm going to get something and just push it straight off, and we'll have that. And then we've got this little cheap coolant hose running to our tank that we need to pop out. And if you want to see how ridiculous pricing is, go and price one of these little things. And they're ridiculous for this little bitty tubing. Okay, so we got that. But to pay particular attention where stuff routes as you're taking it loose. So that there is not a big deal. And I think, well, okay, we've got a wire connected to it, looks like, and some sort of sensor just dangling here, not connected to anything. Somebody has messed with us previously. Okay, so this wire runs around through here. It's getting windy again. And it's got a connection there. We need to label this. We need to label where our little clips are going to go for this whatever it is. And it looks like we've got one connection over here going to this. So other than that, it's really not a lot. Okay, so we're going to get on those and label those, and then we'll work on taking these, popping these looks like 13s out. And so I'm going to get this marked. What we'll do is just put some marks here and here and make sure that we get it back right. Okay, I put a mark around this here and around those, put a few marks so we get this back in the same position. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get these 13s. There's that one. Alright, we'll get this one up here. Right, we switched over to our 10. You can see it drop down a little bit there. Okay, we should have everything loose. Just push that out. From there, it just slides in. We disconnected our little coolant piece here. This will go with it. Over here we got this little wire stuff loose. You're not going to be able to save all of your clips, but you'll make it easier for the next person taking this apart. So I'm going to, still feels kind of solid, assuming we got something. Okay, pop this off here. Alright, so obviously I'm going to have to figure out how to hold this hood up here now. So let me get something safely for that. so I can move this hood prop here, because I hadn't even thought about that till just now. Okay, 2x4s it is. These are 14-inch pieces here, by the way. I just have a bunch of them laying around because I use them randomly for different things. But that's what I got. I got one on each side, so if one happens to fall out, I've got another one for backup. So it says still feels like it's stuck, so I'm going to take another look at it here. Obviously I got something else connected. Okay, the culprit was this windshield washer bottle here. Had to take those tins out. There's a couple tins, and slid. See where this goes into this? That was keeping me from pulling this back, which in turn it was hanging up on this. So it was kind of in a bind there, so I just took it loose. You might be able to slide it back without popping that off there. But anyways, we've got this. As you can see, everything is loose. Not really a big deal. That was probably one of the easier pieces to remove. But again, we're going to put these bolts back. I don't like to see bolts laying around if I don't know where they go or I ain't got them labeled. So we're going to put those back before we move on. And it's just another step to remove this front. But I don't know if I'm going to remove that just yet. So we just have these 13s going around it. We can remove the front of this and get it out of the way. So I think I may just go ahead and remove it because it'll make it easier for me getting to other things without it being in the way. So I think we're just going to go ahead and remove that as well. And there doesn't appear I spoke too soon. Okay, this lower frame portion looks like has a bolt. You can see it right in there going into it. So if I'm going to remove that, I'm going to have to get that bolt out. So let me see what I can do here. Alright, I'm working on getting this bolt. Actually, there's two of them there that run up through the back, and they've got a spot here where you can come up through this with an extension. So we're just coming up through here, and then we'll come up and get that back one with a ratchet, getting it in. We're just separating it from this piece. Alright, so that bolt just flew out. This back one, I'm just getting it with the ratchet here. I will probably wind up removing this piece back here, but for now it's going to be supporting this radiator and stuff, so I don't want to take it completely off because I'm hoping to not have to drain the radiator. Okay, if you can hear anything for the wind, I'm using an extension with a swivel to get these 13 millimeters here, and also put a mark on these. I did move that windshield washer to the side. I took one of those loose. You can see where I had to move it to the side to be able to get in here. Alright, so I'm going to have to get a hand on this or it's going to fall. Alright, so this is ready to come off, I do believe. I think I'm hung up on the hose there. The AC hose is blocking me. And it's really strong too. Okay, I was about to get carried away over here. Be on this computer box. Here, there is a 8 millimeter we do not want to be breaking this. Well, that was long enough. Alright, so now we should be able to remove it. Right, so here we go. Get this set off. Okay, so that piece is pretty easy to remove. We'll put those 13mm nuts back on there. Okay, I've got a couple 7mm. We're going to go ahead and take these intercooler hoses loose. Got one over here, so got my 7mm. Go ahead and get these loose. This intercooler will come out of the way, but I have to actually drop this down. I'm trying to decide how exactly I'm going to do this. I need something to support it before I can take it completely loose. So we're just getting these bands, and these hoses are going to be in the way, and the one that's clipped underneath on the engine transmission's all but certain to get broken clips if we don't get it moved. You see this one though in particular that runs around here is right smack in the way of us going into that starter, so we're going to completely remove it, but I want to get this off of here first. And you see that it's just got these clips, basically pushes up and screws in from the bottom. I'm going to disconnect that connector right there, and then just see about working this off and kind of lightening it up. And I'm going to have to get something to support this assembly so I can move it around. Now, I don't know how much slack I'm going to have even at that, so we're going to play it by ear. If need be, I'm going to drain the coolant and get this radiator out of here, and we'll just leave the condenser. But we're going to see how it's going to go. I could probably just remove the fan and probably clear up enough room, but I'll want to get some cardboard on my fins. Same here, because if you're working around this and you don't have it covered, you're going to be dinging it and banging your fins all up. So we'll want to get some cardboard on here. But I really want to get this out of the way anyways, because it's got all this debris in here, and I want to get that cleaned out. Okay, so this is going to be my setup for now until I come up with something better. So the hoses are going to hold it. It's not just going to fall. And it's got a lot of stuff attached to this. All I need to do is keep it from falling down, just to support it for now. So we're going to go ahead, now that I've got that in place, and all we got to do is take this 13 out on each side, and this will start dropping down, and we'll just work that leg out of there. We should be able to get enough slack to just work it out of there. So we're going to do that on each side, and just go ahead and take this brace completely out of the way. It's going to free up so much more room. Okay, I'm over here on the passenger side, and looks like my jack stand up there will support this. There's that. Okay, so we just pop those down on each side, so we should be able just to work this back and pull it completely down. Let's get this side loose. Alright, so I've got a wire connector here. Said in factory they like to clip everything to everything. Okay, so there's that pesky piece out of the way. You can see my jack stand here is holding it just fine. Okay, we're just going to push these boots off on each side, and sometimes you have to get some spray lubricant behind this because they really don't want to come loose, and you don't want to damage it. But we got the band loose, but as you can see, unless we get this broke loose on each side, now it's got a mark right here. A little white mark shows you where to locate this when you put it back, but if you can't see yours, then you can put a mark before you pop it off. But alright, so we've got it working it loose there. We'll work on the bottom, but don't expect these to come off easily. But if they did, it wouldn't be good. Alright, so let's keep working with it here. Okay, we're making a little progress here. All I can say is I would not want to work this loose in that limited space. So there's one. Sometimes I can take these spreader pliers and have some luck. Alright. Right now we'll push down, see if we can remove this sensor. They get this dirt and stuff in them, and you think that the clip is not going to release, but it's just a lot of dirt and stuff making it stick. Okay, you'll notice I moved my jack stand back because I'm fixing to be removing the intercooler. So we've just got the 8s. Got one of these on each side. And we are going to be getting to the transmission eventually, I promise. But if you need to know how to disassemble your Ford Escape, this is the video for you. But anyway, it's going to pay off. You just want to label everything so you know where it's going to go. Alright, I'm getting ready to move this. I've got it loose. You see I'm going to have a little trouble right here because we got this right here in the way, so I'm going to have to work it up and out of there somehow. There we go. Actually wasn't bad at all. Okay, so I was actually looking at it wrong. You can see this is the only way you're cleaning this mess off. Now I'm wondering whether to put these little side flaps back in or not. You know, they're direct the airflow, but they seem they're also really good at trapping all this. I mean, just look at this. None of this was getting any air going to your condenser right there. That's going to have to be cleaned off. Okay, I think this is going to work for now. So I could take this fan off, but I think that I can pull this back and get enough slack. I'm not going to get a whole lot of slack because I got these Freon lines, so I'd have to remove condenser and everything else. But I think I can get enough at this. If it gets in my way, then the radiator is coming out. But for now, you can see where we're going down in here. There's our starter. There's that turbo tube right in the way. We're going to go ahead and remove that. And then we'll get on the starter. You see there's also a little green tab right there. You have to pull that up towards you. Pop that clip off, and I believe you should be able, it's like a lock, it should just slide off there then. To make things easy going back, we put us a mark, paint mark there. Okay, this lock what I do is slide that green part up. You have to reach down in there to do it. Slide it up on both sides, and then you push in on that, and it'll pop right off of there. So I'm just going down in here now with this. I'm just going to push this hose off carefully. Okay, so there's that tube popped out of there. As you can see, now we got some room to do something. Now, what we might do is take the starter loose and simply pull it up and over here and get those connections on the back, which is kind of why I was wanting that intercooler tube out of the way. But either way, I can make it work, or I can take them loose where they're at there now. I think there's like a 10 and a 13. But you first got to get this cover. So we got tubes going everywhere here. You can see that cover. Mazda 3s are all just like this. Your Focus. There's basically that cover right there that serves no purpose except for clipping those wires. That goes on with some 10 millimeters. And so you have to remove that before you can get to the 13s that are actually holding the starter on. So still kind of hard. I was hoping to be able to show you a little better, but there's a lot of stuff in the way here. And without disconnecting the coolant, which I don't want to do any more work than I have to, so I'm trying to avoid that. We're going to get that cover. You got those 10 millimeters on the top and the bottom that you got to remove to get the little cover that has the wires clipped to it. And then once you get that, you get to the 13 millimeter studs underneath it. As a matter of fact, while I'm at it, I'm going to probably going to get underneath and see about getting these loose from the starter, because I'm going to need to pull. I'm either going to have to pop the wires loose from that bracket, or I'm going to need to pull it completely out of my way to be able to get to those 13 millimeter studs. So I'm going to work on getting, I think, the wires loose from it first. Okay, I wanted to show you how I'm getting at these. So you come under here and you look straight up by the oil filter, and I've got my little slim ratchet. I'm on the 13. I've already got that 10 off. That's not going to focus. But anyways, I'm going right up through here and just getting a hold of both of those. Yes, you got the throttle right there, but you can get to it using a deep socket, a little slim ratchet. And I'm just taking those out because when I get the bracket off, I'm just going to pull that whole thing out of the way. Okay, so there's your 13 and there's your 10, just like I said. Now, you won't be able to pull that off of there because you're not going to have slack, because remember, it's clipped to the bracket that's on the starter. Okay, I'm going to work from up here now, and I'm going to get those 10s just coming up from up here and pulling this out of my way to get the 10s off of that bracket. Okay, so I've just kind of come in through here. I've got my ratchet right on that. If you can see, and you really can't because there's too much in the way, but right down in there, just getting that, working that bracket. These, even the 10s are going to be snug at first when you're taking them loose. So here I can kind of show you from this side. But I'm just working that top one. This is the top one. And then we're going to switch over. We've got a little short extension. This is all I'm using. You really need a magnet when doing this sort of stuff. Okay, so there's that little 10 millimeter going on the top. So now I got to get the bottom one. Okay, I realize I'm not going to be able to show you the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and hop underneath. We're going to take this out of the way. Okay, so we're going to remove this here, and just to point out that this is something that you would have needed to remove. You know, you got these plastic clips going to the bottom of the engine. What could possibly go wrong? So we're going to take these tins off, and then that frees that up. And because it's easiest, we're going to disconnect it right here at this junction. So we'll get our 7 millimeter, and we'll just go ahead and get this loose. And there we go. So all these junctions are going to be, you're going to have to work with them to get them loose because they really stick. But we definitely need this out of the way. And with this out of the way, I can kind of get under there and show you the starter a little bit. Really been windy and cold today, not very pleasant. Okay, when pulling this down, this one actually just fell right out, so I was kind of surprised. So there is that piece. So you just kind of wiggle it down off of these. Okay, so as you can see, this lower bracket on top of having the pesky bracket over your starter, you also got a coolant hose that's clipped to it. So we got to work that off there. So we're going to push that up out of our way. So now, I mean, this is like the best that you're going to be able to see this, but you can see right there. I'm just going to get my little ratchet wrench and get a hold of that tin right there, and then we'll have this bracket loose. The nuts are loose from the front of the starter, so I can just pull this up and out of the way. And then you can see the 13 right below that bracket, and that's what's actually holding the starter in. And we'll go ahead and get that one from the bottom, and then we'll get on that top one. It's pretty easy. Okay, I'm just working that bottom 10 millimeter on. And keep in mind, I can move this thing out as I need to get the things, so that's not a problem. Just pushing this wire bracket off, and I'll find out if there's anything else connected, but it should push right off. Okay, so see, I've got it disconnected from the starter. It's also it's connected to these other wires and hoses and things, but there's that. Now what I didn't like, you can see this is just loose. I'm loosening it with my hand. So the 10 millimeter was tight, but this was loose. So I had to hold this, but this is why I always use Loctite. I don't know if anybody's worked on this previous or what, but it doesn't really appear that they had. But these are usually extremely tight, where I've had to use my extended ratchet to get them loose. So the fact that that one's loose is kind of scary. So that's what you got. Basically, you just got this studded bolt and then the 10 millimeter holding that bracket. Okay, now we're going to come up here, and with that bracket out of the way, we're going to get at this one up here. As you can see, I'm just going to go in there with my little extension and break that one loose. Okay, so this is where I'm coming through, and this top one was very tight, and I thought I was going to break this little slim ratchet getting it loose. So that's the way that it will be, or supposed to be. You can see how with your wire bracket and stuff in the way, you're just not going to be able to get to these. So you have to really push that over and out of your way. But short of taking the radiator and everything off, this is about as good as we're going to get. And you know, other than taking the engine out. But because they decided on these engines not to put an access for your flex plate and torque converter, you got to go in through the starter. So until you figure this out, you're not going to be doing much of anything else anyway, unless you want to take the whole engine out with it, which a lot of times I will do, because it's debatable if it's much more work. So I'm going to finish working this out, and we'll reach in there and try to fish that out through the top. Okay, I'm getting ready to reach in here and try to work this starter out, so I can pull back on my and it's got a couple of alignment pegs. Okay. Looks like I'm getting all tangled up down here. So we may, in fact, be going through the bottom. 1 second. Okay, I had to pull this out a little bit farther, but I did get it through the top, so there's that. Like I said, there's a couple spots on here, these counter bores, and that's where the located pins go into. Okay, so I'm having to pull this back to do anything, but I'm going to try and show you if I can. There's a little rubber piece that you pull out. Just put it back before you put your starter back in. Gives you a little more room. So you can kind of see. I think I'm going to take this clip here loose because it's right in the way where I'm trying to show you. So let me see if I can move a few things. Okay, it looks like this is about as good as it's going to get. Now I can give you a view of that flex plate right there. All we're going to do is go out here and start turning this crank. Very easy. We'll hold it with extended ratchet, or we'll prop it against something while we're breaking these loose. But we'll go in here with a you know, whatever we need to, extended handle, ratchet, or whatever, we can get in there easily. They're going to be pretty tight, so expect them to be kind of hard to break loose. But we're going to go ahead and I'm going to try to get set up here on the crank. You know, turn it clockwise only. We'll set that up there. Okay, this is what this looks like. 21 millimeter. It's got a little extension on there, and we're just gonna watch this. And there's our first one right there. So I think it's 15, but I'm gonna go in here and find out. Okay, I'm holding it out here with one hand with a crank, and I don't have a lot of room, but I've got enough room to do what I need to do here. And once you get them loose, and these are really tight, there's just a lot of stuff in the way here, but they're really tight, so plan on it taking quite a bit of effort to break loose. We've got 4 of these. Okay, well, I've got it enough. At this point, I can probably go in here with a smaller ratchet and get a little bit more of a bite on it. But you can see right there, we're working that loose, and we'll get it completely off of there. They're locking, self-locking nuts. Okay, so I switched over to a shorter ratchet and a shorter socket because it was hitting back there on the engine. But so they're locking, so you got to fight for every thread. Okay, so I'm just going in here and removing that first one. We got 3 more to go. So they're not hard to get at like this. They're just really tight to break them loose. So we're going to turn it until we get to the next, just like we did that one. And there, we just about pass it up, so we're just going to keep going because we can't go back. So we'll go on to that one right there. Okay, we're basically working on the very last one here, and we'll have this flex plate freed up. Okay, I'm going to be supporting this engine with a jack, but we'll probably get another jack stand under here. We don't want to leave it this way, but we've got the engine supported under the oil pan. So we're going to get over here and get to work on removing the bolts from the transmission. Probably going to start on the lower ones. And once we do that, we'll go ahead and remove this. I've got it pretty much supported. I could remove this if I want, but I'm going to get my lift over here and get a hold of it. Now you could also simply get your lower bolts and lower the vehicle down, and I've done that before, and get it onto a little mover's dolly and get it out of there that way. It's just a little bit more work because you're going to have to lower the vehicle and raise it, etc. But the main thing is you want to support the engine. We've got one torsion mount in the back, and then this one, and that's going to free it up. So we're going to go ahead and get under here. I'm going to figure out where the lower ones are, and we're going to get on those first. Alright, so we're going to work on the lower ones first. Back of the oil pan, we got this 13. And some of these are different, so I like to mark them as to where they come from so I don't get the links mixed up. Now, you'll also note that we've got all these running along the 4x4 that we're going to have to remove as well, and plus this. We'll get to those. Okay, so now we switch over to the driver's side. We're looking back. This is the oil pan. We're getting these back here. So each one that I take out, I assign it a number, and we just keep track. So I'll put some tape on this, and we'll put a number on there as well. So the other one, I labeled it number 1. We'll make this number 2, and you want to mark. And so that's how I'm going to do it, and I'll get some tape. I'll put a number on that one. So if any of them are different, it won't matter, because we're putting them back where they came from. So I'm just going to work on this one next, and then we'll move over. Okay, so the next one's up right over here, and this one is loose for some reason. So that's why I'm a believer in medium Loctite when putting these back together. I don't want stuff to vibrate loose. So we'll make this number 4, and you see it's a little bit different length, a little bit different than some of my others. So that's why we like to keep track of them. Okay, now we're going after this one right up here. We're just going to leave the upper ones, pretty much get all the lower ones loose. And then we'll get on that 4x4 over there. Okay, just going to show you what I've been working on here. Now, the 4x4 here, very easy to get to these. This one, we've got, however, 2 more up around the top. Now, another thing that I found, and you can't see these. There's 3 8mm up on top there. They look like that. I had to go up there with this and get those loose, and I pushed the shield back over here kind of out of the way. I think I'm going to put 2 of those back in there, those 8mm, but I'm for sure not putting that hardest one that was back at the far corner. But I needed that kind of out of my way to be able to get to these 2. Here's one. I've just got my wrench, 13mm wrench, and I was actually able to break this loose. Just to show you where it's at here. 1 second. Okay, some light would be nice. All right, so there's that one, and there's one more on the very top there that I can't even show you, and I hadn't figured that one out yet, but I think I can get out here from the top of this. I think it's reachable by going through the top. I don't know if I can show you where it's at. Yeah, you can see it over there hiding. But this here, I guess, is the tricky one, and I got it loose just with this. Now this is rather difficult, so I'm not liking it. I'm thinking that it's probably better to just go ahead and lower this subframe, which that's more work. The biggest thing is disconnecting the rack and the steering column and everything there. So I don't like that. So I'm going to try it this way. If it's way too difficult, then I'm going to go ahead and just drop the subframe. There's not very many bolts holding it. So we're going to continue on getting this one right here with my little wrench, and then we'll work on that upper one. Okay, I got to say that that one there is definitely difficult. When I got labeled as D, it was difficult to get out of there because there's just no room. You got the exhaust. I'm thinking better to have the subframe out. This one up here that I'm getting at, it's not very difficult at all. You just got to hold it straight to get it loose, but you can see very easy to get to this top one. There's just that one there that was difficult, and once they're loose they come out real easy. So this is the last one for this, and we're going to get up top and see how many we got left up there, and hopefully get the lift over here. I know it's really windy right now. Okay, right now I'm just working on removing this bracket for the CV axle. It's just 3/13, not a big deal. And what we're going to be doing with this out of the way, I can go through right up in here and get this bolt that's hiding. If I can show you, right up in behind here, you got to get that 13. So we're going to have to come through here. I'll show you in just a second when we get it set up. Okay, so you have to shine a flashlight up in there as you're getting that socket into place. I run an extension back to here. I got a swivel and another extension out here. So we're going to go ahead and take that loose. Just takes getting some extensions and stuff together. It's really not that difficult, but it's one of the more difficult ones to get to. Okay, so we're just out here working it loose. You just want to make sure you got it on there good. You don't want to be stripping anything out. We've got it pretty loose. We're going to go ahead and spin it the rest of the way out. We'll go underneath and get the magnet if we have to. Okay, so we finally got that bolt out. This turbo being in the way made that one more difficult than it had to be. My ratchet extension got into a bind. I had to go under by hand with an extension and work it the rest of the way out of there, but it was just really difficult getting to that bolt there. But I think we've got all of the tough ones. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get on these here. Those are 15s, but we're going to take this here out, and I think we're just going to go ahead and remove this. Take this one completely out and remove it. Whatever's going to be, actually we're just going to remove this one and we'll leave this. We should be able to. Now this is going to rock back. There are, if you can see, those two 10 millimeters right up here. This exhaust bracket, we need to get those out. So we're going to take those because they're going to the transmission there. We're going to go ahead and get those, and then we'll get this one and this one. And if this does rock back a whole lot, I can move it back around when I get my lift on here. Okay, got that free, so that shouldn't be a problem for us. We've got it pretty easy from here. We are going to go up top. We're going to get probably rigged up to it. We'll get our jack back over here in place and get our lift. Actually, we may just put some blocks under here for now, and we'll get our lift. We'll just have to work around this. I'm going to try to get my lift in position before I start going any farther. I've got pretty much all of the bolts. There's like one more right up here. May go ahead and get that one, because other than that, it shouldn't be just a couple up at the top there. Okay, here's the reman, and this is what a reman should look like. It should look like it's almost new. So this is, they did a really good job on this. What we got here now, I just wanted to show you. We got 1, 2, and 3 bolts, and we took one out over here, and I'm looking here and I'm seeing 2 threaded places. So I take it that there's one more up here that I didn't get. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and take this one out, and I'm going to leave these 2, and I'm going to have to get over here and see if there's some way that I can see that or be able to get to that, because I didn't see that one. So anytime that you have any doubt, you just check your other transmission. If you got one, you can see where your bolt holes are and how many you got left. And you can't see a lot up here, but these shouldn't be difficult to get to. There's one right down there. I can see them clearly, but it's hard to show you. It's got a ground. We'll want to label that. And then as you come back over here, you can see both of them right here now. See those 2. And then back over in there behind. This one's really tricky to see from this angle. You can just barely see it right there in the center. That fuzzy right there. But we're going to figure out how to get to them. I usually just get in here with a swivel or whatever it takes. But we know we got those. I'm going to take this one here with the ground, and I'm going to go back there and hunt for that one that's down on the back there. Okay, I ultimately wound up taking the bracket off this 4x4, sliding it over, and having to use a ratchet wrench and doubling up another one to get that one back there. But I'm not going to do this going back. It's just way too difficult. So maybe dropping the subframe. but don't want to do this going back. Just it's way too. It was a fight for every one of these bolts back here, and it's just not worth it. Okay, so at this point we only have 2 bolts left up here. I'm not going to take those out yet. I want to go ahead. We're going to get our shifter cable off. You just pop that up. Okay, so just get you something on this and just pop that up and off of there. And it's going to be nice and snug. Now this, it looks like there's just an 8 holding that. Usually they have little latches, but it looks like it's just an 8mm. So I'm going to come up from up here and take that 8mm out. Okay, this one I'm going to be swapping this bracket, so I just took the whole entire thing up there, and you're going to be swapping over, you know, every bracket that you have. So keep up with all of your stuff. Okay, so we've got, I know we've got this cooler going in here. We're going to have to disconnect the cooler. We'll figure out what's holding that down. Okay, so let me see if we do have some more wires and stuff. I know we got this here. It has a safety clip, and you're going to pull that forward once you press that down. I kind of got my thing just dangling because it was getting in the way, but I will get that prop back up. But any wires, anything, the lines, everything we got going over here, we're going to get those disconnected. Okay, went ahead and removed these 15s from this bracket. It's not going anywhere until you take the center bolt. It's still being held up. And it looks like wrapped in. So anyways, we're going to go ahead. Now we can get a little bit more room. We can see something here. You can see, I'm sure it's got one on the other side too. We got a 10 right here. We're going to take that loose first. Now we will have to get these loose, and they're going to be dripping a little bit, but we'll figure that out here in a minute. So there's that one, and there's one on that upper side. You can see up there. We're going to have to get in there and try to sneak that one out. Okay, and I just went back in here behind, coming from the back side with a little ratchet wrench. All right, so you fold that up. You got to push right here with a screwdriver, and then you can flip it up. Now we got that free. We'll make sure all of our wires are going to be free. And so we got this free. You see how these lines run around to it there. So we just basically got to disconnect them from the transmission at some point. Okay, so I'm going to remove this one here. There's another one that attaches right here. We're going to remove that right there as well. And we may have a little drippage. Okay, so we got those free. We got this one over here free. So we're just going to give it a check over, make sure we haven't missed anything before we take those top 2. Okay, here's my setup I'm going to go with here. I've just got some block going to be supporting the engine. And it's just under the oil pan there. And we get the lift over here, and we're going to get a hold of something to where we can halfway get this thing to come out somewhat level, hopefully. Okay, so I've got this extension and a swivel set up. I'm going after that back one. I'm going to leave this one, and then I'm going to get the lift over here, and then I'll go ahead and get this loose, and that last bolt. Alright, I just quickly rigged up the chain where the bracket, the shifter cable was, just to kind of get it in a position. And so we only got one bolt left in the transmission up at the top. You can see it right there. That's the only one left. We're going to go ahead and take this bolt out. I've got my little dolly here, and we're gonna, be careful. Right here, we got a connector that I missed. We need to get. So again, we're gonna double check, because it's a lot easier than going back and fixing things. Okay, right here, this is attached. I'm gonna have to get this fixed back up. Okay, so we're getting ready to go ahead and move this 18. So there we have that. Good time to check the condition. It doesn't look too bad. So we should be able just to leave that on there. We're just going to have to be careful as we're lowering it down. We don't want anything to get hung up. We should have everything, but we're going to double check. Okay, we're going to have a problem right here, I can tell, because as we go to slide this out, because this is still in the way, it's not going to allow me to slide it that way. So we're going to have to get back behind here and remove this bracket. Looks like entirely. Okay, just getting the last bolt, so the mount is off. Hopefully that's going to be level enough because I just hooked it up quickly. We're going to get that last bolt. I've double checked everything. I haven't seen anything else attached, so hopefully that's going to do it. We got this loose, so we're going to go ahead and get that bolt out and just start easing it down slowly onto our dolly here. Well, I may be draining coolant after all. I didn't just lifting up on this hose here, I found that it's leaking. I guess just from moving it is causing it to leak. So the seal is bad in that hose. I believe it's like the white one there. It's got a leak in that seal or something there, because just from picking it up and moving it was making it drip fluid, and it shouldn't be. It should be able to withstand a little bit of movement. Okay, so the engine is supported, and all I'm having to do is just wiggle this, and it's actually coming loose. You can see that it's separating here. And I'm not having to do much of anything. So there we have it back far enough. I think I'm going to have to go ahead and get this mount completely off, because it looks like it's going to keep me from coming back as far as I need to go before I go down. So we're going to zip those 13s off real quick. Okay, everything appears to be free. We can slide this back a little more. We should be able to. It's everything should be good. So we're gonna slowly start easing it down at this point. But like I said, these are free. The lines are free. So we're going to slowly start going down with it. Okay, the only issue I was having is hanging up on the subframe at the back, hence the reason that really needed to come out of there. And it would have made things a lot easier, I think, getting the 4x4 and everything, but I pulled it forward because I got slack up here and was able to get it. We're almost down. Looks like everything's clear. Haven't seen anything in the way so far. Okay, and here we are just easing it down onto our dolly here, and it won't be any problem getting this out. We'll see how well it's going to set there. Actually, that's going to be pretty good. So we've got room to get it out of there. So we'll go ahead and work on doing that. Okay, I've got the lift out of the way. I said, other than fighting with the four-wheel drive, it has not been difficult. I really hate that I got a leak at this. And with these things, usually you have to replace the whole thing a lot of times. I want to figure out why it's leaking. It's got a... it'd be real nice to have a T just to go to that. But it looks to me like it's that white piece there, and I think they might sell replacements for that. I don't know. I'm going to have to check into it. Either way, it's going to have to be fixed. It's probably been leaking. Just moving it. So it's not dripping now, but when I touch it, it starts leaking. So I'll have to fix that problem that I didn't even know that I had. So we're going to wheel this out. Okay. See, we're hitting. I'm going to have to move that. Okay, here we are rolling it out. We had plenty of room, just with the exception of this box here being in the way. So we'll just go ahead and wheel this on over, and we got to swap all of our parts that we need over to the other one. So I don't think it's going to be a lot, just brackets and stuff. Maybe sensors. But anyways, there it is, out. And we'll go back in. Like I said, that subframe is going to have to come down. Unfortunately, it's not going to work. So there's a view of that, and then I'm going to have to fix the coolant problem. So it's another issue that I'm going to have to deal with. So anyways, we'll get back on it in the daylight. We'll go ahead and wheel this on into the garage here so we can swap stuff over. Okay, I'm just out here today swapping a few things over. It hasn't been much that I've even noticed. This shifter has a slot, and I just snugged it down, put a little Loctite on there, and I did put a wrench here to hold it so it wasn't moving the shifter. We put the fill tube on. This little bracket, little plastic piece that goes to those studs, and they have some, these are little Teflon, and then the seal that goes on your lines that are running back into the transmission there. So you got some new seals with this, which is really nice. Other than that, we're pretty much ready to go. Here's a sensor that I swapped over from the other transmission, and we're just gonna essentially get hooked up to it. Not really sure. I'm not gonna go back in the same way as I came out. I didn't really like hooking to these small bolts. I think I'm gonna go through this little eyelet and that one right over there, but we'll see how it works out. If it doesn't work out, I'll go back the same way. The main thing is I just want it to be as level as I can get it, so when I pull it up in there, it'll just make it a little easier. But it's really easy with this, using this this lift for this. So, but the only other thing I'm going to do is I got to go and remove the subframe, so I'm going to have to go inside and remove a few things. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. Another thing, this is a 10-quart system. What I found with the last transmission I put in, which I was not happy with, by the way, if you followed the one of my recent videos with the 2008 Tribute, wasn't happy with the reman. I mean, it worked good, but the quality of it and the way that it looked and the rust, and I just didn't like it. but you know, it got the job done. But this one I'm really pleased with. But anyway, it's a 10-quart system. What I found with the recent reman is they dyno test them. There's about a quart left in there. I put exactly 9 quarts into that one, and it was perfect. So what I'm going to do with this one, 9 quarts, Mercon LV only, and we're going to have to take it and get it flashed or do the strategy code at the dealership. I don't have the scan tool to do that with, so we'll have to have that towed up there and have it flashed. So that's going to be $150, I think is what they said, but it's got to be done before we can drive it or do anything. But we're going to fill it and take it up there, get it flashed, and then we can test drive it and make sure that we got the proper level. And the little fill plug's a little bit different on this one. Let me show you. Okay, so the fill plug's right here. It takes an Allen head, but on the other one it's just a little bolt that was over here to the left. So that's a little different. I guess they change it up from one to the next depending on where it's made. But either way, it's gonna, that's where we're gonna check it out. Okay, as you can see, using those eyelets works out actually perfectly. So another thing I like about this reman, I'll say that they check, you can see where they check all these threaded holes they've been gone through, so you don't have to worry about that. And I don't know how many times I've run into getting one in and a thread be messed up, and so I usually go through and check them myself, but they've actually went through all the threads on this thing and checked them out. So we've got it the way we want it. We're going to go ahead and get it down onto the dolly, and because this is going to work out good. We've got just a few things we needed to switch over. We'll leave these brackets. These are just holding the torque converter into place so it's not wiggling its way out. So we want to make sure it stays seated until we get it under the vehicle and we actually start lifting it into place, and then we'll remove those. Just no need to remove them right at this moment, because we could might have to wind up reseating that torque converter. If it does come out, you have to turn it, get it fully seated again, and you can usually tell by looking at it, because the problem is if you go to mating up with your engine to the flex plate, you'll know immediately, because you won't be able to turn that crank because it's going to wedge itself on there. Okay, so here we are, all ready to go on our dolly here. Now we're going to go ahead and get to work on the subframe. The subframe really easy to remove, with the exception of disconnecting the steering column from it. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We've got a few wires to disconnect, and we'll have to get that done before we start going back in with it here. Okay, before we can work on the subframe, we got to come in here and disconnect this right here. It's a 10 millimeter, and if you can see a place to mark right there, you want to make sure you get some kind of mark on there and get this back as accurate as you can, or your steering wheel will be off. So all we're going to do is just come in here, and when you do put this back, make sure that you use some high strength Loctite on this. But this, I don't really know for sure. It should just push down from here with this loose, but we'll see when we start dropping the subframe. But either way, this has got to be loose. Now I wanted to point something else out. I don't know, I'm assuming there's supposed to be some kind of a cover or a boot or something on here. I don't know, there's not one on this one, so if you have one, then you'll have to remove that before you can get access to it. Okay, so there's that completely removed, and they just had medium Loctite on it. But anyways, you got to completely remove it because it's like the ball joints. It goes through a groove there. So you got to take that bolt completely out. And this usually will just wiggle right up and off there. Like I said, don't lose your mark. I just put a little bit of a permanent marker, but I'm probably going to get some paint and put on there as well with that out of the way, because I do not want to lose my mark when putting this back. Now I would point out that this has flats and stuff here, so it may pretty much only go one way, but I want to make sure either way that it goes back the way that it's supposed to. Okay, now we're going to get our stabilizer links here loose. It's got a 15. Sometimes you got to put pressure on it from the back side if it's spinning like that. Okay, and the other method is you hold this with a 5mm and then get your 15 on the nut and start turning it. Okay, this is a horrible design, by the way. You can just barely, with all this here, you can barely even get a 15mm wrench on this. So if you can't get this, then you're going to be cutting it off. So we can't move the wrench. Obviously, the only choice we have is to turn this Allen if we can. We're going to try to get some spray lubricant and see if it's going to move. But I have cut these off in the past because they were messed up beyond fixing. Okay, these things are really loose. I couldn't get it with the impact at all, and it's just they're really corroded. So this is the way that I'm having to do it. These really need to be replaced. So we're just going to have to work these both out like this on both sides, just turning it clockwise because I'm turning the actual Allen head. Okay, I didn't think about this till now, but you could also remove that lower one and it might be a little bit easier than messing with this one. But the lower one actually has some flats on either side. You can hold it there. I think I'm going to do that on the other side. I'm just going to remove the lower one because this one was pretty difficult to get at. And trying to push it through there. We finally got that loose. But anyway, we got it. So I usually don't think about removing this one because it's usually the more difficult because I can usually zip them off. So I've got a 17 holding this, and then we got a 15 here. So we're gonna see how much trouble this one's gonna be. Okay, so we got that loose. So this is definitely going to be easier than doing the other side. So we're going to just work this one off from the lower end, and then we'll get on our other brackets and stuff. Got to get underneath. We've got a brace and a few things that we need to get next. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be working on is these 15s under here. You can see they run, this brace here runs right in here. So we got to drop the subframe here, and that brace is over the top of these pieces. So we need to remove all those 15s on this brace first. So so we get the other three on the other side. Okay, we've got the brace out of the way. We just put the bolts back. We've got two on this piece before we move the main bolts. We've got a couple of 10mm on this piece on each side. We're going to go ahead and remove that. Okay, these bolts back here are actually 13s. I was calling them 10s, but those are in fact 13s. get those on both sides. Okay, right back here, this hanger has to come loose. Don't know if these are the original boats, doubt it, because one was a 10, one was a 13, but that has to be loose. We may get something back here and support this a little bit so it's not damaging this where it flexes, but that does have to come loose there as well. And I'm just kind of back here looking. We've got, I know, some connectors up there for the power assist and stuff, but I'm going to just kind of be lowering it slowly with a jack, so if we see a problem, then we can stop and start disconnecting stuff, because it's very difficult to even think about getting in there at this point. There's our jack stand supporting that, so it's not putting any pressure on that flex pipe. I believe the only wires we got to disconnect are up here. We got this ground for these two wires right here, 10 millimeter. We're going to label those, and then we've got a connector right here that runs up to this. Just squeeze down right here and disconnect that. So this is clipped here, and then again down here, but it's, I think we can leave that. That's actually on the subframe. So we're going to unclip it here, and I've got more zip ties and connectors to fix that, but we've got this and this disconnected, so that should be free. And if there's anything else, we'll find it over there, but I think that's going to be all we've got. Okay, so here is your 15 that's got to come out up here, and I like to reverse sort of engineer, I guess you could say, these. I don't usually know what the exact torque is, but this one here was right at 75 foot-pounds, between 75 and 80 for this 15 millimeter bolt. Now this big one back here, I got it actually maxed this torque wrench out, so I know that it's over 150. So this one's pretty tight, so I maxed it out and it was clicking. So definitely want to go 150 foot-pounds plus when you go back with these. So I'm getting ready to zip these off here. The next thing I want to do is get a jack on each side so we can lower it down. So I'm going to go ahead and get that set up. Okay, so we got our jacks set under here on the flat part, and now it's just a matter of getting a hold of our bolts here. The 21 millimeter in the back is the one that's really tight, so probably just start with this front 15, zip it off first. Okay, there's a hole right here you come up through with your extension. Right. See, that one came out no problem. So we'll get those both on both sides first. There's what that looks like. Okay, and if you don't have an impact, a big long breaker bar with a cheater pipe will get it as well. This is the big 21 in the back here. So we've just about got this completely out, and then we'll start lowering our jacks here. There's this big long bolt bracket. Just don't forget to put that back on before you put the bolt. Alright, so we're going to slowly start lowering this on both sides while we're carefully watching what's going on. We're just going to double check things. Okay, and I can see I'm going to have to get something and strap my 4x4 up because it's dangling down on me there. We're just lowering it a little bit at a time. Alright, so we got our 4x4 attachment wired up to the exhaust there, out of the way. So when we're bringing the transmission in, it's going to be out of the way till we get that. and it's pulled up so it's not putting a bind on it. So we're going to continue on lowering this down. I don't believe we got anything hooked up, but we're going to just take it slow. Okay, I had mine a little off balance. As you can see, it fell. So make sure you got your jack centered up or it's just going to fall on you like this. But it didn't hurt anything. But I was trying to get it centered, but it wasn't centered enough, and I guess it was hung up in the back, and when I started lowering it, it just kind of fell forward. We're going to drag it out of the way now. Okay, one thing I feel silly about, but I forgot to unhook my tie rods. So that was my whole issue there. So we're going to pop those down. Okay, so I'm just, since it's got this Allen head, I'm just hitting it with my center punch. And here's the reason I'm not worried about leaving this connected. As you can see, these things have had it. This is not terribly heavy. You can see you can drag it out of here with just a little bit of cardboard. Right, so there we got it completely out of the way. Now hopefully this is going to be worth it with the room and coming back in here and hooking up this 4x4 and stuff, because it was not easy getting it out. So we're going to go ahead and get our dolly over here and get our transmission, get ready to start lifting it back into place here. Okay, so here we are. Now it's just a matter of just getting it back underneath the car here. So we're going to try to miss what we need to miss. Okay, so we got our chain. We're going to bring the lift over here and just start lifting it back up into place. Now, pay attention to your 1/2-inch locating pegs. Those are the ones you want to try to start first. And there's the one on this side over here. So you want to try to start your bolts in there. If you can't, the main thing is just start them by hand. Don't start your bolts with a ratchet. And then here we're going to put a little grease. Put a little bit of grease in there. Put a little bit on your locating pegs as well. Okay, one thing I'm going to have to address before I get this in place, this leaking piece right here. We're going to have to go ahead and drain this coolant out. I notice this one right here, just from moving these around, and they hadn't been in a bind or anything, they've started leaking. So that's cheap fittings and stuff for you. Now that one I may wind up using a T on it. I don't know. I'm going to drain the coolant out because I'm sick of messing with it right now. But we're going to drain it, whatever needs to be drained. And then this one, we will probably going to have to fix this because we disturbed, just moving this around, disturbed the O-ring on that. And this little piece is like $50-something for this. I don't like the design at all, but the way that it's made, they don't really give you a lot of options. Okay, we got our lift in position, our chain hooked up. We're going to slowly start, watch what we're doing. We're going to lift it up, start working into place here. Okay, we're just going to steadily keep lifting up. We're going to make sure that we don't get hung on anything, but using the chain and the lift, it's usually very easy to get it up into place. You just have to kind of spin it around where you need it and keep an eye on things. But as we get close, we'll start moving it over a little bit. But I don't expect we'll have any problems because the subframe's out, and that was the only thing that was holding us up before. So we're just going to keep working it on up here. Okay, and you can kind of also guide it here with your hand from this side. And looking pretty close as far as being into alignment, but yet we're back enough that we've got a good gap. Let me show you. Okay, if you can see this gap down here, I mean, it's got a pretty good sized gap, and we've got plenty of room coming up, so that's what you want. Okay, now I am higher in the back than I am here, so we may have to do some readjusting here, figure out how to get this to line up a little better. Actually, the way that I come out with it worked out probably the best. Okay, so do not hook up to it the way I did here. It's not a good way of doing it. If anything, do it like I did removing it, because it was more balanced that way. But what I had to do, because the back was way higher, like 3-4 inches higher than the front where I needed it to be, so I had to get a jack over here and lift it. And right now I'm just kind of eyeballing this bottom edge before I try to shove it into place. So I'm going to try to push it over, see, onto those locating pegs. But basically, you know, you're going to have to work with it, because you know, it's probably not going to go real easy. You're just going to have to work with it and kind of get it into place. But if you get it, once you get your holes aligned where you can tell it's going to go right, you know, towards your alignment pegs, then you can start kind of pushing it and wiggling it into place and get a bolt started. If you can get one bolt started by hand on one side, you can kind of work the other sides in, because that bolt's going to keep it from getting away. Okay, now before you start pushing this together, you're going to have to look down in here where your starter goes. So it's not going to focus, so I'm just going to have to tell you that the studs on the torque converter, you can see that stud right there, that's going to have to line up with that flex plate. So make absolutely sure that that is lining up, if you can see that right there. Okay, and this is what happens when you don't come in. An easy task turns into a hard task lining this up. But I've got this one here going into that dowel, so we know that one's good. What I want to do is get this one back here before we go any farther. I want to get that one in. That's the hard one to get to from the back side. So I'm going to go underneath and see what I can do with this now. Okay, as you can see, it's going to be a little easier with this subframe out, but still not easy to get back in here. And we'll probably have to get a ratchet wrench. But I'm going to get this one here started. We want the 2 dowel pins to be started before we work on any of the rest of them. I want to make sure we can get these going by hand, and make sure that, if you can see, I'm shoving that up with my hand, so I make sure that it's on that dowel. And I'm just going to tighten it down with my fingers as far as I can. Now I'm putting blue Loctite, medium Loctite on these. Okay, so we're home free once we get this into place. And we ain't gonna get a torque wrench up in here because we got this exhaust and everything. Now we could, I suppose, remove some of this, but we're gonna just snug it down with a ratchet wrench. See, I've got that run down pretty much all the way with my fingers. It's just a little bit toppy. It's sitting tight at the bottom, but the top's kicked out just slightly. But we got that threaded down. I'm gonna go ahead and get this other one in back here, I think, and then we're gonna go around and we're going to check our crank. First thing, make sure it's not in a bind. And we'll go ahead and get our bolts on our flex plate, get them in, make sure we're not gonna have any issues there, and then we'll get the rest of these in. But we've got it on here. We've got the 2 hard bolts with the dowel pins. We'll go ahead and just snug those up. Okay, so we got our 21 ratchet back on here. We're gonna go down in here, you know, just like you see me taking them off. We're gonna go down there and we're gonna put them back. We're gonna snug them all the way down, and then we're gonna be going back and torquing. I'm gonna torque them down to about 35 foot-pounds. There's no need for Loctite on these because they're a self-locking nut. So just one at a time, snug it all the way down, and then go on to the next, and then we'll come back and torque them. Oh, and the other important thing, like before putting all the bolts in, make sure that you can turn this crank. If you can't turn it, then there's a problem with the torque converter. It's not seated enough, and you're going to have to take it back off and fix that and get it seated properly. Okay, so this is what I've got: a long extension and a swivel and the 15 down there, and that's how I'm torquing them out here. Okay, so I've got all those torqued down to 35 foot-pounds. If you can't torque them, just get them really, really snug with a 3/8 ratchet. And I marked the first one, painted it, that way I knew when I got back around to make sure I hadn't skipped any. So we're all good on that. We'll go ahead and work on getting the rest of these transmission bolts in, and then we'll come back to this. We got that little rubber boot. I think we'll go ahead and slip that back in there. Okay, so it'll only go one way. Slip it right in there like that. And all we got to do is get our starter on. Not a big deal. Okay, I'm just going along getting the rest of these bolts in. We've got them all labeled and numbered. I'm going to get them all in the transmission before I work on the 4x4. And then we're going to go around some medium Loctite, and we're going to torque them to 35 foot-pounds. Okay, and I wanted to show you how much easier it is to get back here and get to these bolts with this subframe out of the way. So I can easily get in here now. It's going to make it a lot easier, and it should make it a lot easier on hooking this 4x4 back up as well. Okay, you can see I'm easily getting these with just a little ratchet wrench here. And if I can't get the torque wrench, the one up there, then I'll just snug it really good, and I'll get to the ones that I can. Okay, so now we're just back here working these bolts in from this back side. And we got got another one up here and one more above that. Okay, so basically torque the ones that you can, and then the ones you got difficulty, just get yourself a good wrench and just snug them down. You know, just don't overdo it, you know, because we're just talking about 35 foot-pounds. Okay, the transmission's snugged and torqued. We're getting ready to put this 4x4 back on. Like I said, those up there were not difficult. I just got them with got the one lower one with the torque wrench and the other one with my little ratchet wrench. But we're getting ready to get this on there. Now there's a black seal. Make sure that's in place because it fell off on mine. But all the problems I was having when removing this before was due to the subframe. This is going back together a lot easier. So we're going to get this into place. We'll get the shield back on top of it. Got our 2 bolts right here. And so we're Loctiting all this stuff. 35 foot-pounds on these. And we're getting there. Once we get this hooked up, I think we'll switch over and go ahead and get our mount on, and we'll move our jacks and stuff at that point. Okay, so here we are. We're just getting ready to work these in. We got these all labeled There's nothing to slipping that 4x4 back on there. You just slip it up when it's in alignment, it'll go right into place. It's a medium Loctite on everything. There was several bolts on this that I found that were loose, and that's the reason I Loctite everything, because if they're not snug, then they can work themselves loose. And by the looks of this, I don't think even those top ones that were hard to get to are going to be bad. For one thing, with the subframe, I can see everything I'm doing. This is definitely the way to do this. For one thing, the transmission comes out a lot easier with the subframe out, and then getting to this 4x4 is really a must. I mean, there's really just no getting around having that subframe off, and it's not that difficult to remove. I mean, this is one of the most simplest ones I've ever seen, with the steering column being removed on the inside there. Okay, so we're just gonna snug these down. Then I'm going to get on those upper ones. I should be able to get my torque wrench on these, maybe at the very least just using a swivel. I just, you know, I got it apart with the subframe on, but I hadn't done one of these in particular, and I thought maybe it wouldn't be so bad. But getting them out was very, very hard. And I was just thinking about going back in, it was going to be even worse, trying to get these bolts that are difficult to reach. I just knew there was just no way it was going to work. No way. I mean, trying to save a little bit of work, removing something and making something just almost impossible, because there was a few of those two bolts in particular that are above this 4x4 for the transmission. Those, I didn't even think I was going to be able to get those, and still don't even know how I got them. Alright, so we'll come back and torque those in a minute. Okay, so these are the ones that are a little more difficult to get to. And I think I'm just going to snug these. I don't know about getting the torque wrench up in here. It's going to be a little bit too difficult, I think. Okay, that one's not wanting to start. Let's get our little slim. But with this subframe out of the way, I can get to these where I couldn't before. I can get my ratchet wrench in here. So anyways, I want to finish snugging this one here down. So like I said, this was even the most difficult one, and I can just reach over this with this subframe out of the way, spin this right in. So these are working out really, really easy. And I've got the bolts and the trans, I've got all the bolts into the 4x4. All I got to do is snug these up and put the heat shield back on, which will be real easy. And there's 3 bolts on top of that heat shield, but I'm only putting the 2 because it's just unnecessary. If I ever have to remove it, that one is just way too difficult to get to, and the 2 will hold it sufficiently. So I'm going to go ahead and snug these up, and we'll get them torqued down, the ones we can, and then we'll move on to replacing this heat shield up here. Okay, so this is going a lot faster than before. Got our heat shield. We're just going to place it, and you can feel You can feel where those spots are right up there. And we want to get that back up there in place. So this thing is really solid. It's really a solid piece. I'm going to work that in there. Okay, so we got those back on there, and we got that vent tube shoved back up there. I know it connected up there somewhere, but make sure it's out of the way. Okay, we got this bracket going by the 4x4 here. We can get it over here. We got Loctite. Now we'll also get the bracket for the CV axle back in place before we get this subframe. Everything that we can possibly hook up, we're going to hook up before we get the subframe. It's just going to make it that much easier to have all this hooked up here. So now I've just got one bolt here on the side of the block. It's got those 10s, we got this 13. We're going to tighten this up here, and then we'll probably move on to go ahead and putting this bracket on while we're here at this spot. Okay, and there's that bracket back in place. I just tightened those to 35 foot-pounds. Okay, so we're fixing to get these bolts back in our mount here so we can get this back up here. We'll tighten these down to 35 as well, so they got medium Loctite on it. So we've got our transmission torqued, so our flex plate, our torque converter, everything's torqued down. The only other thing I'll do is I'll get my lines hooked up in case I'm going to have difficulty wrapping them around before I put this top part on. But everything else is good, and we'll get the lift out of the way once we can get this kind of lifted into position here. So I'm just going to snug these on down, and I'm going to go ahead and attach my lines, get some clean transmission fluid on those seals while you're slipping them in. Okay, we got the lift out of the way. The jack's still holding it, but it is on blocks too, so it's not going anywhere. So what I wanted to do before I got the top part of this mount on is get this set back into place over here. It's got a couple of these 10s, and then I wanted to also get these lines kind of wrapped back around. You notice I kind of got them covered up. I don't want them getting dinged up, but if need be I can remove this again. I just want to get these into place. Okay, using this, I just kind of push down on the metal part to make sure that seal popped down in there nice and tight. And now we're going to go ahead and just tighten that screw up there. Okay, so there we are, snugging that down. And we just got the one more on the back side back there we're going to get to next. Okay, so again, I'm just coming from the top with my long screwdriver and just pushing that, popping that down in place there. It's a nice tight seal. So we'll just get that screw in there, and we'll be finished up with the lines here. And then we're just going to have to get our two 10 millimeters back into here to hold our cooler in place. Okay, with our lines back on, everything routed, we're going to go ahead and get this bracket where we just simply remove the whole bracket. Now I did take a nut loose from there I need to put back because I was thinking of popping that off, but then I wound up realizing I needed the whole bracket, so I just removed the whole thing. Now this up here, we're just going to snap it firmly back down into place. Okay, I had to take my jack and lift it up a little bit. We're just getting ready to start. And we'll get our 18 and get that snug down into place. And we can get these whenever. I just want to make sure that I'm going to have to be hooking up the wires for the rack and pinion. I want to make sure that I'm not going to have too much covered up here, so I'm just going to probably get the bolt in it to hold it for now, and we'll come back and put the cover on it later. Okay, we got a couple of connections we're going to go ahead and get right here for the transmission in the front. While we're here at it, we got our main connector. And just rotate that tab. Push it on firmly. And if I can get some stuff out of my way, and it'll go down until it locks. Right, so we've got that took care of. I think we're going to go ahead and work on getting the subframe. This is pretty much all done with just a few, exception of a few hookups up here. Then we're going to go ahead and work on just getting the subframe back into place, because this actually went pretty quick over here, a lot quicker than it did coming apart. Right, we're just slowly lifting it up a little bit on both sides, and I got to watch that I get that right there back into where it goes properly, and make sure these wires don't get hung up. They're going to go up top. And you see we're pretty close to where we need to be. So we're just going to keep lifting it up, and I said I want to get that in before I do a whole lot. I want to make sure that that's going in where it's supposed to be. Okay, so as I'm running it up, I just took the bolts and kind of run them up through here and verified that it's pretty close as I'm lifting it. And then you come inside and we verify that that's coming through properly. And so we're going to, this back one's pretty close here. We're probably going to go ahead and work on getting that one started, and then we'll go to the other side and get the one up here diagonal. We're not going to get them tight. I'm going to be using some high strength Loctite. Okay, and as a note, don't try to start one of these bolts until you've leveled it out on both sides, or you'll get it cross-threaded. We're just going to run it up a little bit. And remember, we've got the bolt on the rear of this bracket here. It has a couple back here as well. And then there's the brace that goes under, but it's not too bad. It's harder getting it out and back in. I'm probably just going to go like 130 foot-pounds on these back here. I think that's plenty sufficient. I may go 150. Okay, we don't want that too tight, so we got to get the other side lined up. Okay, so we're just starting this one by hand. We'll come back, and we're not going to tighten anything down just quite yet till we get them all in. Okay, we got some medium Loctite on these. Before tightening this one, we're going to go ahead and get these little 13s back in here. You know, I like to start everything by hand. Make sure that it's lined up properly. So once we get these locked down, we'll go ahead and get that brace that runs across, had like the 4 bolts in there, and then we'll come back and we're going to torque these. I'm going to go probably 150 on these back ones. That's about what they were, and then 75 foot-pounds on that, and we'll call those good. Okay, and we also got to get our bolts back in this that goes to this subframe to mount the exhaust here. So we got to find those, and we'll get this released. See if we can't get these back into place. So this has went a lot easier. I said you definitely, if you're doing this, remove the subframe, because I haven't had near as much trouble. I've got way more accomplished, and everything's went way smoother removing this subframe. And this is not difficult to remove. All right, I'm getting ready to put this torsion mount back in place. Remember, this has got to go like that, and it's got to go in there first. Get that hole lined up. We'll get the vertical bolt going in there, that black one, and then we're gonna get some medium Loctite on these and get these reattached. It's not a big deal. We've got all this here torqued down. I went 150 foot-pounds on those big ones, no problem. 75 on the others, and other than just the stabilizer link and tie rods, everything's hooked up there. So we're really making some progress, but it's about to get dark, so probably going to get this mount in here, and I don't know if I'll get the stabilizer links or not. Okay, so back out here today, those two right here for this exhaust bracket, these tins, I was tightening those up that I had forgot. Probably gonna wait. We're gonna go ahead and get over on the CV axles now. We'll wait on this intercooler tube. Okay, we're getting ready to go in on the driver's side. We're gonna make sure you got clean transmission fluid on the seal. We're gonna hit this in out here with a rubber mallet till we knock it in. Till it's nice and solid. Okay, we're just hitting it out here. Right, we're gonna put a little of this on here. We gotta put this back in place. And for this part, we're gonna need to get the crowbar and push this down a little bit. Right, so I'm gonna try to work this back into place here. We're going to have to also take a crowbar, pull down on this till we get it back into place. Okay, this thing has a crazy amount of tension. The hardest thing is pushing that down. And now I'm tapping this up with a rubber mallet. But you have to push the knuckle in and then get that lined up by pushing that down with a crowbar. Okay, I got a little medium Loctite on this 18 millimeter. I'm going to torque that down to 61 foot-pounds. Hold the 15 on the other side. Right, so we got that set to 61 foot-pounds. I know I'm going to be going back and revisiting these. These ball joints look horrible. The tie rods look horrible. Right, so there we have it. Go ahead and get our axle nut on. We're just going to fasten it down. We'll torque it once we get the vehicle on the ground. On this one, we have to go 59, and then we've got to turn it 90 degrees. And this thing actually has some marks on this thing you can see as well. You could go by them. Alright, we'll go ahead and try to slip our tie rod, and then we'll get on our stabilizer link. Said these have a locking nut, Teflon. We're going to just go 45 on this. I'll go ahead and get this to 45. I think it's trying to turn on me. All right. Alright, now we're going to work this stabilizer link. You do have to push down on that stabilizer bar. And I suspect that I'm going to be having to hold this to tighten it, because I did when I was removing it, but no biggie. Okay, we got that stabilizer linked. Next piece, we're going to get our dust shield. So I feel like it's definitely worth taking the time to remove this, because I couldn't tell you how many times I've damaged them, you know. There we are. Okay, we'll go ahead and slip our rotor. Oh, 1 second. Again, make sure to put a little grease around there, as those are always seizing up. Alright, so the only thing left here is just getting our brake caliper back down on here, and it should just slip right back in place, and we'll get the 2 bolts from behind there. Okay, and don't forget we got this little part of the brake line. Right, so we're getting ready to get these bolts in from the back. I do got some medium Loctite on these. Just get them started by hand. Then we're going to snug these up to 129 foot-pounds. And then we'll go over to the other side and get to work on putting that. And it's going to be the same with the exception of just putting the CV axle in. Okay, we're getting ready to go in with the passenger CV axle. Make sure there's clean fluid on this side of this seal. Make sure you put clean fluid, light coating of grease or something on this. Clean this off in case you didn't get any fluid on the inner seal up here or whatever. Make sure that you do that. Alright, so we're just getting ready to slip this in. We have to go in, try to go in as straight as we can. And my knuckle here is kind of in the way, so I'm going to have to move it over. And we'll have to, once we get it so far, I have to give it a nudge. Okay, as it turns out, I'm removing the 4x4 yet again because I can't remember to take the plastic red caps out. So to be continued. We're going to take this and have to slide it over and get that plastic red cap out. Okay, so there's that pesky cap out of there. You can see we got to it. Wasn't real easy, but we just pulled it over here. Had to take that bracket loose. So make sure to put some clean fluid in there as you put that back for that CV axle. So I'm going to go ahead and get this back into place now. Okay, so here we go. Take 2 minus the plastic cap. So we got to get it going straight here. And this strut's trying to get in my way. And we'll go on and confirm that we've got that pushed far enough. That bearing has to be in that saddle of that clamp, and usually have to do that number to get it into place. But always remember, if you're not making mistakes, it's because you're not doing anything. Okay, so there we go. We got it into place, and we'll go ahead and fasten this saddle down, this 13mm on the top and the bottom of this clamp. Okay, now just like the other side, we're just going to grease up a little white lithium and start slipping everything together. From here on, it's the same as the other side. Okay, we've got our wheels back straight out here. Now we're going to make absolutely sure we line these marks back up, and this will move wherever you need it to here. We should be able to get it to slip right back into place here. Okay, so just like that. So I'm going to take and make absolutely sure those are lined up. Okay, we got some high strength Loctite on here on this 11 millimeter. I'm sorry, 10 millimeter. All right, so if nothing got moved, everything should still be exactly straight like it was. Now I didn't look up the torque on that, but I did get it really snug, like I said, plus the high strength Loctite. Okay, we're done on the steering knuckles and everything. We're going to go ahead and work on getting this starter back in. Now this is the reason you label stuff. I actually forgot this, and this goes on the number 7 bolt, which is that one right there. So I'm going to have to take that bolt back out and put this ground wire back down, and this side goes up to right here. So it runs around the front of this the transmission and everything, and goes to this ground right over here. But I think I'm going to get the starter in first. Okay, we got that torque down to 35 foot-pounds. I'm just getting ready to work this bracket, and you got this little lower hose down here that clips on over all this, I believe. But we're going to go ahead and work this back into place, and it's really kind of a tight fit with everything, but we're going to work that back on there, and then we'll move on and get our 13 or 10 onto this end. Okay, so we did get that piece fixed and stop that leak, and we have yet another leak right here just from disturbing this, not even pulling on it, just from disturbing it. Taking this transmission out has caused this to leak, so then this is going to have to be replaced. Now I actually thought about trying to modify it, but I'm not sure how I want to go about it just yet. But I really hate these little cheap lines. You can see it runs over here and, you know, wires off. So that'll have to be fixed too. Okay, before we can get this cover back on, we're over here working on reconnect. This was for the subframe, and we've got these two here that basically ground right here in this spot. We're going to just put that back on there. Okay, we just got these two connectors right here. This goes up to the battery. I'm going to go ahead and put this ground on back down here. I think we pretty much got most everything over this way. We'll probably work on slipping this cover back on the mount, and then we'll have to hold up until I'm going to have to get this leak fixed before I can put all the battery and stuff back in place. Alright, so we got that bolted down there, and we got it reconnected to these, and it's just ready to go back in to its spot here. And we'll go ahead and get that bolted down. Okay, so we got those two grounds back in place there. We'll get those clamped down. I think I'm going to put this back on here. We'll probably work on getting some fluid in here soon. Okay, I'm getting ready to tighten this down to 35 foot-pounds here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and hook this up and try to get my little turbo tubes back in place. Looks like I'm going to be waiting on this special order. Can't find it anywhere, so I'm going to be dead in the water. So I'll probably just get these on and work on getting the front end and stuff back together, and everything really doesn't make much difference at this point. I'll be waiting for several days to get that piece before I can do anything. So I think I'm going to get these on, probably just quit for the day. I'm just at this point, I'm wondering what else is going to be leaking on it. Like everything you touch on these cheap hoses leaks, so I'm sure there's going to be leaks somewhere else. Okay, we're getting ready to get our transmission fluid in here. Okay, so we got the Mercon LV, and I'm going to be putting 9 quarts, because 9 quarts should fill it up, but you know, I can add another quart. It's a 10 quart system, so we're going to slowly start pouring this in here, and then we're going to make sure we don't have any leaks. But so we're going to go ahead and fill it with 9 quarts. If you're not using a reman, then you know, you could go ahead and test it out and run it through some gears, but being a reman, you got to do what they say, and they require it to be flashed before operating it. So we're going to get that done once we get it together. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and add about 8 more here. Okay, so still been unable to even patch this leak up, so I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to work on getting the front on. I will say that if you're doing one of these transmissions, so these coolant hose are like almost $60, $70 through the dealership. This one over here looked like the end of it was messed up, probably from the heat, I don't know. But they're really brittle. I would probably recommend just getting you one and get it ordered ahead of time. I really didn't think it was going to be a problem, but so far I really hadn't figured out a way to fix this or even patch it up for the time being, so I'm going to have to wait on that part. Anywhere you go, it's a special order, you're going to be waiting on it, so just a heads up on that. And they've got you know, they got these things where they're really hard to find, and there's really no good way of fixing the thing either. So we're going to go ahead and work on getting the front end together now. Okay, I've just slipped this back up here for now and got my hose on. It's got some clamps. They're going to go on the bottom. We're going to reconnect this connector right here. It's just kind of sitting there right now. Okay, so I got the intercooler slipped back on here, and then this piece has to go back on here like this, and we'll get this little screw going back through here. Okay, so we're getting ready to go back in with this little piece that supports the radiator and everything here. Now I found it easier to kind of swing this around and push it up with my knee, so I'm having a little more trouble with this side. Okay, so I pushed that up a little bit, was able to get that started by hand. We'll come back and torque it. Okay, now we just need to pop these into place here. Okay, the next piece is going to be this metal piece that goes on these studs here. Okay, so we're just going to line up our marks here and just start tightening these 13 millimeters down. And that wire fastens back there. Okay, I'm also lining up around this washer here. I put a circle all the way around it, so I lifted it up just slightly, so I'm just making sure it's back in the same position. Okay, we're going ahead and torquing these 13s down to 35 foot-pounds here. Some of these a little bit harder to get to than others. Okay, we got the two 10 millimeters that go into this. We got to push this assembly up so we can come through the bottom here. Okay, I just got my jack over here to make things easier. Okay, so we're just coming through that hole on the bottom like I showed you when I took it out. I'm just getting this one here started. Got some medium Loctite on it, and we'll go over to that other side and get it started. So I'm just using an extension, my 10mm. Okay, now I'm just installing this one here at the back, and I'm just going to torque these like 20 foot-pounds. Set a medium Loctite on these. Okay, getting ready to torque this front one. Alright, now we'll switch over to a shorter section. We'll get on this rear one here. Okay, now while we're down here, we're going to hop over to this frame piece here, or support piece. We're going to torque it to 35 foot-pounds. Now, it looks like I had a pretty good ways to go there. There we go. We'll just get the one on the other side. Okay, so we got our support on there. We're going to go ahead and get this plastic piece back in place. It's kind of like a puzzle the way it goes together. Okay, so first off, we got to get these lined up with those and going in there. Another thing, we got to remove these. We'll put them there so we didn't lose them. Okay, so now we're ready to slip this into place. Said it's kind of a puzzle. We got to get those going in there. Just a second. Okay, I had it completely upside down. It goes this way. So we push those in, and then we turn these just to lock it. Well, push it in and then lock it like that. It won't go unless it's lined up properly. Okay, so as you start out with it up here, you push it in. As you rotate it, it'll line up with the other slot until it goes far enough to allow you to lock it. So we'll get these two screws back in here before we lose them. Okay, so I actually had to take this back off real quick. I realized when I got this up here, these were popped into this piece, so I got to get this piece on first. So we'll pop that back off, get this piece on, and then we'll go back to this. Okay, we're slipping it down on here into place. It's got to go under the spouts from the radiator. Okay, and before you can get this to set down, you got to pop this washer out of the way because it has to slip in here where this is. It won't set down. I'm just getting ready to put the bolts in. Got the two over here, one going in here, and then the one through here. All right, so I'm gonna get this bolt back here. I'm not going to tighten it down just yet till I get the other ones in place and on my marks. We're just going to leave it kind of loose. Okay, so we're going to get this 13. And again, I have a mark going all the way around. I'm going to line that up, make sure my other marks are in place. And then I'm also going to do the same with my fender. I've got it marked. So I want everything to be back into the alignment it was. Okay, now we're going to get these started in our fender. Like I said, we got the area marked going around this. So we also have a mark here on this. We're going to line that up, and we're going to also line up our screw there. So we make absolutely sure this is going to be back into alignment that it was. Okay, and we'll go ahead and just finish snugging these down. All right, getting ready to put this piece back up here, and these parts right here that have this hook are going to go into this area right here and lock in, so I have to get that lined up. Okay, so as we're doing our locks, we're going to be sliding those into where they go here too, and they really latch in there. Okay, so we snap those uppers in, and then we're just going to turn this down here till it locks. Okay, now we just got to get these tins back in here. Alright, so now we're going to check and see if there's any other pieces we need to get in behind here. Okay, as it turns out, this piece back here will not slide in unless this is loose. I didn't have to take it back off, but I did have to take it back loose. And you can see it slips under here and latches on each side there. So I have to latch that. Okay, I did say it was like a puzzle, but it latches from the top and then those snap in on the bottom there. So I'm gonna see, there's some other little side pieces that go in here. I'm gonna make sure that they are gonna go. See, I labeled these, but sometimes it's still not easy. But this little piece is going to go snap into there, and then this is going to snap right there. So we're going to work it over here where it needs to be. We'll get on the other side. Okay, so we got that one snapped on. I think that's all my pieces for this too. So good deal. So now I'm just going to lock these back for the third time. And then hopefully get my bolts back in there. Okay, and I'm pretty sure those just had some snaps, but I'm going to hold off for a minute in case something else has to snap on top of that. I don't want to have to remove anything else. But everything's looking pretty good here. I think I'm going to see what we got to do with these wires up here. Get them back to their spots and get our cable for our hood pop here back into place. Okay, I realized that this was the piece that went to the hood latch, but it's broken off. The little piece is broken there, so I'm going to have to try to get another one. But I was wondering what it was because it was just laying down in here. But anyways, we got this sensor reconnected. We got these clipped back where they go there. We're gonna get this put back here eventually. This is the worthless coolant line that's gonna have to be replaced. See, it's not real easy to get to. I may in fact have to wind up waiting on this. I don't know, because it's really going to be difficult to get to with everything put together. But anyways, we'll see what else we can get done here. But we've got this on. We got the front brace. I want to look and see what other pieces I've got, but I think that's pretty much it before we can start putting the bumper back on. Well, the headlights will have to go in place first and be connected, and then we got, I think, the front bumper. Alright, so we're just getting ready to get our headlight back in place over here. So we got our two connectors. Okay, now we just got to get this one right here. Now on this is going to slip up into place here, and up here there's a nub on that that's going to go right in there. So we have to be mindful of those. Right, everything looks good. Now there's 2 screws down here. There's also a little nub under this for locating it if it's not been broken. So we got the funky looking screw on this side, and then we just got the 10mm. I'm going to wait till I get everything in place before tightening them down. Right, so we get this in place. For some reason this one's a little off. Okay, so that little plastic thing it screws into moved around on me a little bit. Alright, now we just got the one over here. Just double check everything and then we'll start snugging these down. Okay, so this piece has some locating pegs, and actually those 10mm we put down there we had to take back up. It's got locating pegs, and then this snaps to the front of this. Just set that down there, we'll get those 10mm back in there. Okay, so we got those snaps back in there on each side. We've got our bumper sitting here. I think we've looked everything over, ready to go ahead and get this back on there. We got the connector right over there. It has to connect to the bumper. Other than that, everything's looking pretty good. Starting to look like a car again. Okay, we've started just by kind of setting it on these nubs, and we'll just loosely get these screws up here started, and then of course we'll start pushing this in to the snaps. And you got your locating pegs. Screws are going to come through from that side. I'll probably find some screws to put on the bottom. There wasn't any on there prior, so I'll want to find something to go on there. So we got the locating pegs over here as well. So we'll snap those up into place, and we can connect this connector easily from right here. We'll just get that connected. Okay, firstly we've just got these setting up here loosely. Now what we're going to do is push these up in. They're going to latch, and there's locating pegs there as well. So we're going to kind of work this up and into place and get our little locators while we're pushing up. And if we don't get it in alignment, it's not going to go. So there we have that. These will just snap right back into place, and we'll be able to fasten those up there. Okay, now we just got our 10mm. We got to get started right up in here. We'll get them snug down, and we'll have this all in place. Okay, these are secured. Just routing this hood pop back into place. It just slips right in there, goes under these, and you just stick it down through there and loop it back. Real simple. Now we've got this piece, and we've got, it just has these snaps that lock it into place, and this is where this has a little piece here that goes, and then we just flip this and get it secured down with these screws here. We still got some more stuff here. I'm leaving that out because I got to get this hose, but I may go ahead and put that connector back in that box. Okay, so that should be down in there, and this should be snapped down on this piece, and then this should be right here. So we're going to go ahead and take our 8mm, fasten this down, and then lastly we'll get our clips back in here. I've been keeping up with everything like little bags so they don't get mixed up. Alright, so got that working. Right, we're in this box. We're going to go ahead and put this back in here. I just don't want to take any chance of any water getting to this. Alright, so we've got most everything that we can do for now. I've got to leave, like I said, I got to leave myself some room for getting this battery box, and I've got to leave that out so I can get to this coolant line here. And right now I've got the coolant drained down because it was just steadily leaking. So hopefully we are going to get us another line and get this fixed here. But I need to get this connected back up here. Alright, I'm getting ready to slip this back in, and said the way this inner goes in and this outer piece will snap onto that because of these. It'll be quite difficult to get it in place. So we've got the assortment of 7mm up here. This sensor is going to connect to that, and we're just going to work it up here. And we put this on, and then we can start our 7mm in the front of this. Okay, we're just starting with a couple of these just to hold this in place a little bit, and this will still allow slack for moving it around. See, we already got one on this side here as well. Okay, we're going to start with this sensor, getting it plugged in, and it really takes quite a bit of strength to push that where it'll snap there. Alright, so that's on there. And then we're going to slip this. I'll make sure that those are lining up, and this will start to snap. There's locating pegs, and it will start to snap in place once we get everything where we need it here. Right. Okay, and I'm just snapping this in. Right, so we'll start working some of these in that snap in on this back side. Okay, we're about to start working these in, and we do have a few that go underneath too. We're going to get to those. Next thing, these are 7mm. And I just put a little lithium because these are rusty, just to kind of cut down on the rust, and maybe they'll go back in a little bit easier. So we're going to get this fastened down. Okay, so now the only thing we got left is we got a handful of these 7mm to put back in this here, and then we'll be finished up. These here were missing that go to this piece under here. Okay, so we got our wheels back on, the inner fender liners are on, the bumper is secured. So now the only thing we're waiting on is some part, special order part for the coolant, and then we'll be able to get this stuff easily back together. But I can't put any of this in, including the cowl and none of that, until I get this done. So it just has to go together in order. Okay, we got this tube in. This was $58 all together, and we just got this in. It only took about 3 days to get it. Seeing what the problem was on the old one, this had actually deteriorated and broke the end off, so it couldn't seal. So till I come up with a better idea, I guess we're going back with this for now. And I think I'm going to try to work some of this this battery tray and stuff back into place before I plug this back in. This gets held up with this, and then this like comes to the side here. So I think we'll get that, start hooking some of that up. It's been raining, so it's got a lot of water setting up here. But we're going to try to work on this, getting some of this back into place, and I want to get that hose hooked up, and hopefully we can get everything back together. So I've got to get it flashed, so it'll have to go to the dealer for that. Okay, the first piece I'm going to slip back in is this, and I'm snapping that to the side, and we'll get that screw in here. That kind of holds that up, so it's not going to be putting pressure on my new line that's running around to the overflow there. And I'm getting ready to snap that new line in at this point. Well, okay, so I had to take this box back out to get that line in, because it was actually put a little white lithium to get them to pop into place. Pretty snug fit. So was that one under there. But there was also a piece of the old one broke off in there that I had to kind of fish out. Okay, so we're getting our 3 screws in, and the one in the back there. Okay, so we got the battery all fully charged. We're getting ready to slide it back in. Okay, so we've got a stop back there. Just going to push it on back. Remember, we've got a sensor that we've got to reconnect right here, and then this is going to come over here and connect to this. Alright, so we're getting ready to slide this part of our battery just right back down into its slot here. It should lock back into place there. Okay, before we connect this, we're going to go ahead and reconnect our wires down here that go to this part of the box. Okay, so now we got this wire, 10mm, and then we've got our bigger one that goes over here on to the 13. We're going to get this nut in place. Now the 13. Okay, now we can go ahead and get our positive cable back on. Now we just need to get our air box hooked up. Right, we're just tightening up this 13 over here for a negative. Okay, now these snaps just go right back in here. Just keep this out of the way. Okay, I'm just getting ready to set this back down in here. We got the rubber grommets, and then this just kind of clips right over here. Right, we just snap these. Right, so now we just got to get our duct in right over here. We'll feed that into place. Okay, so now we just need to tighten our bands up there. We're going to connect this sensor right here. Okay, now that we got everything else together, we're going to work on getting this coolant refilled. So we should have all of our leaks took care of. So we're going to get this cap off and we're going to fill it. I know I've got a gallon and then some, so I'm going to replace what I got, and we'll have to work the air out once we get it flashed and get everything running. Okay, so we just got this back from the dealership. It was $150 to have this reflash, these strategy codes, and I've got all the air out of the coolant, so we're fixing to go take it for a test drive. If you were putting a used one in there, as long as you're not driving it very far, you'd be fine to probably drive it up to your dealership or somewhere to get it flashed. But with the remans, they require you to tow it up there, get it flashed, and then you're able to drive it. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and get in the vehicle and we'll take it for a test drive. Okay, so here we are taking it down the road. Now, the other thing that I have not done, I put 9 quarts, which I'm, figuring to be just about right, but I have not checked the fluid. I got to pull that plug off the side to check the fluid. Now, we'll check that out here in a minute, but we're going to get it and drive it around a little bit. So, I've got a few things, the hood open. I don't know if I messed that sensor up. I'm gonna have to deal with that. I've got a parking aid assist warning. I don't think that was on there prior, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. That's another issue will have to be figured out, but it's shifting really good. It was like slipping in first gear before. Didn't want to go first, second. I was just slipping, kicking real hard. Very dangerous. You could be trying to pull out in traffic and it just completely just wouldn't move or start slipping right in the middle of the road. It's very dangerous, unable to drive it around town or anything. It's doing okay on the highway, but not able to drive it in town. But you can see it's driving real smooth. And I've already had it out driving it a little bit, but we're gonna get it warmed up real good and drive it around, and then we're gonna go and check that fluid out. Okay, so we're in low gear here, and we're just gonna take off and see it's doing really well. It said so far it's doing really well. Not any jumps or bumps or slips, and I'm not even for sure what it is they do with this whole strategy code. I'm assuming that you could drive it some, but I don't know exactly what it does with those shift solenoids, and apparently it's got to be programmed to the vehicle or they don't last as long. So It's just something that has to be done to make sure it's going to be shifting properly. Okay, so here we are again, taking off in low gear. You can see it's shifting real smooth. I don't feel anything abnormal. And so the dealership, they also took it on a test drive after they did the reflash or programming the strategy codes in. So they take it for a test drive and make sure everything's doing all right. And I'm just driving it around here for a little bit, about 10-15 minutes, and then I'm going to go back and we're going to pull that plug off the side and just what we want to see is that it's running out, not pouring out, but we want to see that it's at least running out that hole to assure that we got enough fluid in it. Now I'm assuming that it's going to pour out, but I don't know. Till I get it up to temperature and get it fully tested, we won't know what it's going to do. So I'm just going to drive it around here a little bit. We'll get it back on the highway here in just a minute and open it up. But so far it's shifting really good. A really smooth riding vehicle. I know they have a lot of problem with the transmissions on these Escape, but it's a really smooth riding vehicle. I really like the way that it handles and the way that it feels on the road. Okay, now we got it on the highway. We're gonna see if we can get it up a little bit above 60 here. But feels really, really good. And so I'm happy with it. And you know, I've kind of drove it around a little bit and I haven't noticed anything. It's really a good quality rebuild. So we're fixing to go back and we're gonna see if we can check this fluid out here in just a moment. Okay, so we got it parked on a flat surface. We got the wheel off here. Okay, the next thing I want to do, I took a measurement to get it level. See, right now, just from here to here, I'm getting 21 inch. I want that to be 17. So I'm gonna like just slowly lower this down a little bit here until we get it where we need it. And we still got a little more to go. Okay, so a little bit more. Okay, still got like an inch. Pretty close. Now I'm going to step up to the front and make sure it looks level still. Like I said, it is not anything special to check this fluid. It is extra trouble than what a dipstick would be, but it's not that difficult. You can see where it's at, but it looks lower because the suspension's not being pushed up by the wheel. So what I've got here is a 3/8 Allen in my case. Now you could have a bolt on yours. The old transmission had a bolt on the left side. This one has an Allen plug. So I've got a long extension and I'm going to go right in here with this and get it into place. Okay, so if you can see where I'm at, I'm on a plug right up in there. You see that Allen head plug right there. Let's see if I can get in there closer. Okay, so you see that Allen plug there? That's what I'm getting a hold of. And I'm going to use this long extension with a swivel just to make it a little easier. Okay, and I'd like to point out, be careful around your brake disc because it is going to be a little bit hot. Don't ask how I know. So we're going to see if we can break this loose. And now we're going to get our pan. I've got it loose. I'm going to get my pan under here. Alright, so I'm just finished removing this. It's probably just going to drop out into my pan when I get it here. And it may come gushing out and make a little bit of a mess, and it is coming out pretty good there. and I don't even have the plug all the way out, so I take it, it's a little bit full. You can see it running there. Okay, so you can see that fluid. We got quite a bit of fluid coming down here. I'm just easing this plug down. You can see it pouring out. That's way too much. So we're going to let it until we get a slow drizzle. I'm just kind of holding the plug there because I don't want it to just be pouring out. So there could have been, you know, a couple quarts up in it still. So we're just going to drain out a little bit here until we get a slow drizzle. Okay, I got a slow drizzle coming out. I'm going to go ahead and replace the plug. Okay, so I had almost 3 quarts too much in here. So I had it where it was drizzling out a little bit, but then I dropped the plug, so it quit drizzling, so I went back up and added about 1/4 of a quart back. So, you know, anyways, we had a little bit too much in there. So only thing we're going to do at this point is get the wheel back on, and we'll all be all finished up here. Alright, so that's going to do it on this video, replacing this transmission. Like I said, the transmission was pricey, come in around a little over $2,000. Now, as far as parts and fluids, I think I had $130 because I had some coolant hose and stuff. But it wasn't that much. The fluid itself, about $60. So I spent about 4 days working on this, getting the transmission replaced. It wasn't too bad. I did, however, spend a couple weeks because of rain and everything, and I was waiting to get into the dealership to get it flashed, so I've got a couple of weeks time into it, which is not too bad. But everything's running really good. Very happy with it. So hopefully this video can help somebody out. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. As always, I invite you to subscribe. If you got a comment, please leave a comment below. And thank you for watching.